Hey guys. This is part 3 of What If Naruto Can Use Unlimited Blade Works. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 7, The Distance Between Them. The bright light in the open barren desert filled his vision as he looked around himself. Howling winds and clouds of dust blow at him. In the distance he could make out monolithic black gears leisurely gyrating in the distance. As he turned his head, all he could see was an endless expanse of dirt and rubble littered with countless swords anchored in the ground like grave markers in a wasteland. Crack! It sounded like a sheet of ice being slowly broken. The high-pitched noise drew his attention to his right arm. He marveled at his unblemished arm for a moment. The holy shroud of Martin wasn't covering his arm for some reason. His head tilted in curiosity at it being naked and unmarred. Crack! Pop! This time it sounded as if glass was being shattered. He closed his eyes for a moment. When he looked back, his face morphed into utter horror and dread. Ha ha ha! The entire arm, starting from the wrist to his shoulder, had countless blades sprouting out of it. The sound of the blades creaking and groaning like ice cracking was terrifying to his ears. A pause took place as he couldn't tear his eyes away to his now mutilated arm that had swords growing out of it. Crack! Pop! Crack! His left arm followed in suit of his right arm. Ag! He yelled in pain. Crack! 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 Pop! Blades everywhere began popping and growing in his body. They stuck out of him in a gruesome appearance. His body was made out of swords. Guaga! He couldn't help but cry out in pain. It was enough that he was sent sprawling to the ground on his knees as the blades continued their uncontrolled growth. Crack, pop, crack! Crack! Pop! There wasn't anything that he could do except endure the pain and hope that it ended quickly. Looking up from the ground, he could make out a girl that wasn't too far from him. It was a petite girl with beautiful blonde hair and the most stunning green eyes he had ever seen. She looked so sad. Her hand went out to him. Salvation. It was out of control by this point, and he could barely move an inch. The boy struggled as much as possible to move to her outstretched hand, but it was all for naught. The steel that invaded his body was shutting his mind down. Everything was so painful. A mind of steel slowly encroached him. He could almost touch her hand. Saber. I woke up slowly. The sunshine of the morning had made its way into the room, bathing me in its warmth. Moving the heavy cover off of me, I sat up and pulled back on my right sleeve, exposing the tightly wrapped red shroud. I gave it a couple once-overs, moving it around and clenching my hand a couple of times. Beads of sweat rolled down my face. A dream. Right. I wasn't sure of who I was speaking to when I said that out loud in my empty bedroom. A glance at the clock near my bedside told me it was 6 in the morning. The house was eerily quiet, and for some reason Sasuke hadn't arrived yet. My shoulders shrugged. Oh well, it's not like I'm ready or anything. That girl's lucky that I'm giving her some extra time to be here. Walking into the bathroom, I turned on the shower head to heat up the water. A nice hot shower should do me some good, hopefully. Stripping in front of the mirror, I couldn't help but stare at a patch of hair at my bangs that was white. I couldn't help but sigh at the sight while shifting around the hair to see if I could hide it. Standing there messing with my hair, I noticed another thing that made me pause. A deep dark tan was encroaching outwards from my arm. It was in a similar shade to that of Archer's skin tone from his extensive use of projection magecraft that caused a rebound effect. At least it's not spreading towards my neck first, I mumbled, trying to make myself feel a little better. There was a good reason why I wore gloves most of the time. It wasn't to look cool or anything like that, but mostly to hide the fact that my right hand was a completely different color compared to the rest of my body. So to draw suspicion away from it, I started wearing a pair of gloves to conceal the rebound effect from projection magecraft. I gave it a good long look at myself before I jumped into the rather warm shower. I'm not sure how long I'm going to be able to hide it from everyone. It was only going to get worse from here on out. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. The shower provided some great relief to alleviate some stress, and before long after cleaning up I was standing in front of my stove preparing a simple breakfast of rice porridge, salmon and assorted fruits. With my soon-to-be meal slowly cooking in front of me I looked at the time, and it was 7:15. Sasuke's still not here, huh? I said to myself. I found it odd that the girl that I've been helping with for the past couple of days was late. Ever since then she's been dutifully showing up right on time if not early. Hell, she even offered to make me breakfast time to time when she was early. My hand scratched the back of my head as I clicked my tongue. Geez, why am I all of a sudden getting worried about her? I guess you could say she's sort of starting to grow on me with how diligent she was at her training. At first I thought her as some typical haughty bitchy teenager that was a general annoyance and pain to talk to. But with how hard she trained and well, for lack of better words, how respectful towards me, my opinion of her was changing. I viewed her in a better light than when we first met, but there was still something that I greatly disliked about her. There's probably only a small amount of people that I don't like, and for one reason or another the person she was dating somehow wormed his way up my list. At just the thought of him my face is set in one of disgust. Daisuke reminded me too much of a rotten purple-haired womanizing bastard named Shinji. They shared too many attributes and morals that were antithesis to my own. They were vain about themselves, gossiped about things they had no knowledge of, a pretentious and otherwise smug aura, and were all around detestable when you talked to them. The metal handle groaned as I unconsciously began to squeeze at the thought of him. TCH, that rat bastard still gets me riled up to this day even if he's pushing up daisies. I grumbled under my breath. Moving the food onto the plate I carried it over to the dining table and muttered a silent prayer before digging in. The table was still a mess with various books, journals, folders, and papers strewn about from my research. It was more of a controlled mess to be fair, as I had everything placed to my liking and sectioned off pertinent information from the useless junk. Gawa, which was promptly ruined by a small white rat waking up causing the stacks of paper to fall down. Ah, glorious sleep! Oh, good morning, Amiya-kun. Miram, why were you sleeping in my research? It stretched about some more, even rolling around in the paper. My eye twitched. I can't help it. I just love sleeping in a good mess, and this is the finest of messes that I've slept in. So you should be proud that a king deigned it proper for him to sleep in. He spoke in a grand manner, even throwing his tiny little arms up. I wonder if the real Miram Solomon would notice if I decided to cook his left arm for lunch. So where's that girlie of yours that you've been training? Usually she's here already with those cheesy snacks that you're too stingy to buy for me. Did I ever mention that this rat was as much of a freeloader like Kakashi and Anko? Pointing my chopsticks at him I stabbed it into the air threateningly. I don't know, must be running late or something. Or even slept for all I know. And how many times do I have to tell you to stop freeloading off of people? If you're such a king, then a king should be able to buy his own snacks, no? But a king should be showered in gifts and treated like royalty. That girl certainly knows how to treat me accordingly to my status. Same with that pink-haired girl, Sakura. It crossed its arm before taking a whiff from my food. You know you could learn a few things from them. I'm going to stuff you into the oven if you don't stop poking at my food with your grubby little paws. Did you even wash them? The thing scoffed at me. Of course. What do you take me for? A lowly peasant? A groveling mongrel? I looked the other way over my shoulder, rolling my eyes. Yeah, you act like a peasant, alright, begging me for snacks constantly. I resent that statement very much. A snort escaped me, I know that. It shuffled around amidst the piles of folders and papers, trying to find a comfortable spot to sit. There we go! My jaw slowly grinded at the sight of him using my research papers as some sort of comforter. So where's that black-haired girl that usually comes by this time for training? Looking at the clock in the room, it was a little past 7, meaning she was a whole hour late now. I shrugged. I don't know. I'm not her caretaker, so it's not my problem. Even though I laid out some strict rules to her, I didn't exactly mean them too much. Thinking back on it, I was fairly harsh to her in general about things, but can you blame me? The people she chose to hang out with weren't exactly the type that I'd converse with, much less be in the same area. How can a teacher not care about the well-being of their student? For the last time, Miram, she's not my student, nor am I her teacher. And last time I remembered she was calling you Naruto-sensei, it said coyly. I can just imagine it now. A teacher-student relationship is in the works. Even if the teacher is a dull, single-track-minded human being with a penchant for throwing himself into danger at every opportunity. Well, I couldn't really argue with him about being single-track-minded with a habit of throwing myself in front of danger, since it was true, and I was mildly apprehensive at the thought of Sasuke having some crush on me. I wasn't feeling up for the mild banter that Miram was putting out, and just shrugged in response. It huffed a bit of air before a peaceful silence fell upon the room. I even got it a block of cheddar cheese from the fridge for him to nibble on. You know, when it's not being annoying, you kind of forget that this little thing can kill me and everyone in the village in the blink of an eye if it wanted to. It was a dead apostle after all, except that he was supposed to be one of the good guys. Ding dong. The sound of the doorbell being rung alerted the both of us. It's about time she showed up, Jesus, I murmured while getting up to answer the door. A pensive look rested on my face as I opened the door, ready to find out why she was late. Upon opening the door, it was the one person I least expected to have come around at this hour. Good morning, Naruto-kun, she greeted while bowing to me. It was Sakura. Oh? Good morning, Sakura-san, I replied back. I thought you were at the hospital working a morning shift. The girl in front of me shook her head. Not anymore. I got a call earlier this morning that my shift had been moved to an hour before noon, so now I found myself with a couple hours of free time. She smiled while tilting her head. Hope you don't mind or anything. Didn't really know what else to do or where to go in the meantime. Oh no. I don't mind at all, haha. Would you like some breakfast? I just started, so I wouldn't mind making some for you, I offered to her kindly. Sakura was good in my books. She reminded me of a purple-haired girl that shared the same first names. They were both kind and caring, well-mannered, soft-spoken, and just all-around good persons in general. Oh no! I couldn't possibly impose on you like that. I gave a soft laugh. You're not imposing on me, I offered silly. Now come on. Let me feed you at least before you have to head into work. Thank you. She bowed before following me into the house. I fired up the kitchen again, making the same thing I made this morning, except I added in some pickled plums, yumizuke, since she had a penchant for sour things in general. Bringing out the piping hot food, I laid it out in front of her before going back to my own unfinished breakfast. Hope you enjoy. Again, thank you for the food. Sakura muttered a small prayer before digging in and complimenting on my work, which made me smile softly. Oh? Good to see you, Sakura. Fancy meeting you here this morning, greeted Miram from underneath a pile of papers. Good morning to you too, Miram-san, respectfully returned Sakura. How are you? Whyy, thank you for asking. It's going great so far. It turned towards me. Why can't I get this level of respect from you, Miyakun? I don't know, maybe it's cause you keep making a mess around my house? Humph, I call it rearranging the scenery to make it livelier. Sayuri, I drawled, finishing up my breakfast. In all honesty, I'm surprised at how well some people were able to take in the dead apostle known as Miram Solomon. While he revealed himself to Kakashi and Anko, he made an identity as a familiar or summons to the rest of Team 7. Sakura and Sasuke took him in well, except for Daisuke, but that was a given, really. Speaking of Sasuke, where is that girl anyways? It's been about an hour and a half now, and she still hasn't shown up yet. Naruto-kun? I looked to her. Where's Sasuke? Isn't she supposed to be here for her usual training with you at this hour? She asked. Yes. It was quite the experience when they both met each other at my house some time not too long ago. Ever since I started their training as a team, Sakura had been visiting me whenever she could. It was pleasant to have her company in the house when I wasn't doing my research and tying up some personal matters. Anyways, it was rather tense between those two for some reason. It was a rather terse description, but there were no other words to describe it really. They were pleasant to each other, but it was sickly sweet and a little bit awkward. There was an underlying friction between the two from what I could tell. The cause of it? I wasn't able to tell, in all honesty. I just chalked it up as usual female things and did my best to ignore it. As long as they didn't try to blow up my house or anything of that sort, then it was all okay for me. Miyakun doesn't really know, answered the white rat. I guess it took my silence as me being unsure and spoke for me. I myself don't know either, as she's usually poignant about being on time. Pity, she said simply. It almost sounded as if she were happy about the fact that Sasuke was late. How odd is that? The pink-haired girl sounded almost like a certain purple-haired girl for a moment. Yeah. I wonder what in the world is she doing? Uchiha Sasuke was having what was quite possibly the worst morning in her life ever. For starters, she had woken up late after having to spend the entire night watching her boyfriend getting drunk and partying rambunctiously with his usual group of friends. The old Sasuke about half a year ago would have happily joined in the fun with the drinking and partying, but after the whole fiasco on the bridge she wasn't quite the same any longer. Naruto had unknowingly flipped a switch in her head. So she sat there as usual, just watching the group of people lose themselves to the alcohol and music while sipping lightly on her drink to keep occupied. Over the couple of days, training with her new teacher had started to peel away from Daisuke. It was a gradual and slow progress, but progress nonetheless. In her rush to get ready had woken her hungover boyfriend. From there it simply devolved into him interrogating where she was heading out early on a Monday morning. Of course she lied, saying something about having to help Sakura at the hospital, but he saw through it easily and grilled into her about it. After what was probably a half hour's worth of arguing back and forth, she simply upped and left, making sure to slam the door on her way out. The raven-haired girl's ensemble was in shambles, but at that moment she couldn't really care too much. Shit. I'm gonna get it really good when I get back to the apartment, she smacked herself in the forehead lightly. You stupid, stupid girl. All you had to do was just be quiet and sneak out, and you couldn't even do that. Ugh, groaned out Sasuke. That wasn't the only thing she had to worry about too. As of now, she was almost 2 hours late with her appointment with Naruto. He's not going to be happy. Her pace quickened before she hopped on the roof and kicked it up into overdrive. Better late than never showing up, right? Crossing half of Konoha in record time, she arrived at the front of the house and straightened out her clothes as best as possible. Alright, here goes nothing. She took a deep breath before ringing the doorbell. The person that opened the door was the least person Sasuke expected to greet her. Oh? Good morning, Sasuke-san, greeted Sakura. The female Uchiha blinked. And blinked a couple more times. Sakura? Good morning. What are you doing here? She asked, trying not to sound rude. I had some free time before I had to head into work, so I thought I'd stop by to say hi, and Naruto-kun graciously invited me in for breakfast. We were wondering where you've been, by the way. Sakura had been with Naruto all this time? That thought made her frown a bit before she quickly hid it. Alright. May I come in? By all means. He's in the kitchen washing up the dishes currently. Quickly taking off her sandals and moving to the living room, she apologized profusely as soon as possible once there. Sensei. I'm sorry for being late. Hey. Geez, no need to shout in the house, admonished Naruto. And what did I say about calling me sensei? Jesus Christ. Just call me Naruto. Yes, sensei. He palmed his face. That flew over your head, didn't it? Sasuke had the decency to blush in embarrassment and look away. A soft giggle was heard coming from Sakura. As much as I'd love to stay and watch this comedy shonen unfold before me, I need to start making my way to work. There's a bit of paperwork I need to do before I clock in. Shame, was hoping you'd stay for a bit longer. I guess we'll meet at the same time and place as usual before your team training then? Yup. She turned to Sasuke. Have fun with your training session. See you later with the rest of the team. Why, yeah. It was strange trying to adjust to a new Sakura. The entirety of Team 7's dynamics were changing with the inclusion of Naruto. The pink-haired girl that used to be so quiet and demure was gradually becoming the opposite. Her confidence had sprouted out of nowhere, and a backbone to boot. Sakura began voicing her opinion on matters about the team, and more often than not they conflicted with Daisuke's, resulting in them butting heads against each other. So, you're rather uncharacteristically late today for some reason. Decide to take a page out Kakashi's book or something and get lost on the road of life? She sighed. No. I was late cause of, well, I slept in because of some stuff, and things that happened last night. Stuff and things? Well, that's awfully descriptive, he replied sarcastically. Why, yeah, just some private stuff. Naruto rolled his eyes. I won't pry into your business. Not like I cared much anyways. That last part was said in an almost offhand way that caused Sasuke to wince. It must have been noticeable as the man in front of her scratched his head and apologized. Sorry, that was a bit of an asshole thing of me to say. Come on, I'll keep today's training a bit short so you can have time to rest before you train with the rest of your team. Her head tilted. Did he just apologize to me? Yes, I did apologize. I tend to sound like an asshole if I don't put a filter between my head and my mouth. At that, the white rat on the table guffawed loudly. Well, isn't that the truth? I'm glad that girl of yours had some sense to install a filter for the filth that can come out of your mouth. That new tidbit of information made her curious, which was evident on her face with her furrowed eyebrows. Oh? He hasn't spoken of her yet, I take it then. Well, if he hasn't, then he must have his own reasons, then I'm sure of it. Miriam, what did I say about opening that big mouth of yours again? See the Naruto. It simply shrugged in return, eliciting a sigh from him. Whatever. Let's get to training already. He turned to make way to the dojo outside but stopped and turned around. And Miriam? Don't go causing too much trouble for my sake if you go out, please? The rat looked affronted at the accusation of being a troublemaker. Me? Trouble? As if. Yeah, Suyer. Come on, Sasuke, let's go. He waved for her to follow with haste. Sasuke nodded but couldn't help but think of who Miriam spoke about going into that day's training. Across the town in the market district of Kanahagakure there was a small dango shop nestled in the middle of the area. It was currently bustling with customers that were happily consuming their food during the peak of the hour for lunch breaks. Two in particular were seated in a corner of the restaurant casually eating their servings, with one of them practically inhaling the food off the plates. Geez, Anko, you mind letting me have one at least before it disappears in that bottomless stomach of yours? Said Kakashi. Kakakun, she swiped another stick of dango before he could. It's not my fault you're being slow on the uptake as usual. The purple-haired shinobi was looking cheeky as usual, but the dry look and glare she received warranted concern from her. All right, Kakashi, spill it. What's going on in that head of yours? Usually you'll be merrily reading your book, but you haven't touched it in a while since we've been hanging out. Naruto, he said simply. What about Naruto? You're kidding me, right? Please tell me you're just joking right now. The normally laid-back man was looking uncharacteristically irritated and wound up as tight as a spring. Anko took a swig of her hot tea before talking. No, I'm being serious. What about Naruto that's got you so worked up the past couple of days? How about the fact that the Naruto that I've known all these years is vastly different to the Naruto that is currently with us? The woman's shoulder slumped. I thought you said that weren't mad anymore? I'm not at all. This is just me being concerned, that's all. She rolled her eyes. Yeah, you're sounding like some overly concerned parent, all right. I'm serious, Anko, and I don't want to hear your usual snarky banter. When he first showed up out of nowhere, you won't believe how glad I was to hear from him again. It's been maybe 4 years? Bordering on 5 perhaps since we last saw him. Didn't even bother to say goodbye except a note he had written to the Hokage. Kakashi took a deep breath while Anko leaned back to him, ran it all out. It was best to let the man fully list all of his grievances for once instead of pandering and skirting the issue about. The man in front of her was known for his patience and level-headedness, but it seemed when it came to personal issues that were close to his heart, he showed his frustrations fully. It was nice hearing that he was doing well while gallivanting around the continent, but then it all just stops. It got quiet, and we don't hear a single thing about him for the next couple of years after the whole debacle in the Land of Snow. Then out of pure chance Packen somehow comes across him, and next thing I know he's in the middle of the town in Wave causing a scene. It was interesting to hear all of this for Anko, as the mission report submitted by Kakashi was as usual short and to the point with its descriptions, meaning that there was information redacted or left out intentionally. You know, when I saw him he was just so grown up? She finished for him. Yeah, at the time it sort of caught me off guard, really. That quiet little brat that I taught had grown up significantly. Everything seemed great and all, but when the fighting broke out on the bridge and he showed up I decided to take a step back to get a read on him. And it was just... Wait, hold up a second. Are you saying that it was Naruto that actually fought them and not you? Interrupted Anko. Yes, it was Naruto that did most of the fighting while I waited and observed with the rest of my team to see how well he developed over the years, and it was just so different and overwhelming, Anko. You need to understand that everything that we taught him was practically thrown out the window. A delicate eyebrow went up in question. What do you mean, like swordplay? Or his Kyudo? Or maybe the taijutsu taught by Guy? Everything, he stressed. You're kidding, right? His head shook in denial. I'm not at all. Actually, come by later this evening and see for yourself. Maybe I will then. Haven't seen him in action, so that'll be interesting. Anyways, continue, yeah? And so Kakashi detailed out the fight, from how Naruto had almost seemingly breezed through Zabuza and Raiga with ease, his summoning of a flaming sword to counter Rogue Ninja's elemental technique, to finally describing how Gato's men had been mowed down by a literal rain of swords that were materialized out of thin air. Wait, hold up. Let me get that right again. You said he rained down over 100 swords that was summoned out of nowhere? Is that right? Yes, you heard me right, and well, it's just a small detail that I've noticed, but he tends to nurse or draw attention away from his right arm. He must have slipped because it caused him to grab at it as if it were in pain. I don't think I've ever came across that in my life before. Any ideas who could have taught him that? No clues really. Maybe Kiritsugu taught him something of this, magecraft, and Naruto took it from there? Or he learned from someone else when he disappeared off the face of the earth for all those years. It was ironic how close Kakashi was hitting close to all his questions. If someone told him the answer to his second question, he would have met it with utter disbelief at the incredibly absurdity of it. Out there in the Throne of Heroes, the original copy of Archer was laughing his ass off. Well then, I guess that means I am definitely coming by this evening to watch, but this still makes me wonder why you are being so concerned. How come you aren't concerned about all of this, huh? He countered hotly. Anko couldn't help but huff and cross her arms in return. Because I know how to give him space, and that he'll eventually come and talk to us when he feels like it. That's what you don't get, Kakashi. Give him space? He sputtered at the start. I think I have the right to at least know what in the world he's gotten into. The right? Kakashi, please, you're being a bit thick here, but you don't have that right, and neither do I. We all have our own secrets too, you know. If you think that he should start spilling his secrets, then should you start with yours with me then? The woman was met with silence in return. That's why I took it all in stride, and I thought you did too after that night. I can only accept what's happened and try my best to support him, even if that means just being in the background. I know him better than anyone else, Kakashi, and you know that. It started off sound harsh but tapered off to being soft and tender. I know him almost better than anyone else here, even if he's been gone for ages. I was there when he lost Kiritsugu. I was there to help pick up the pieces and get him to move on. She was right. Anko knew it, so did Kakashi. After the passing of the man known as Amiya Kiritsugu, the adoptive father of one Uzumaki Naruto, Mitarashi, Anko was the one that took the time off to nurse the child back to stability. Like a big sister, if not a mother, she learned how to give him his needed space and not incessantly bug him about any issues that he had. It would only cause annoyance at the very least, along with stunted growth and healing at most. Kakashi let out a tired groan and rubbed his face with his hands. I just can't help it, Anko. I know, Kakashi. I know. Just have a little faith in me and, more importantly, him, okay? It was a rare sight to see as she held his hands and looked him in his eye. Just promise me this time, alright, Kakakun? Underneath his mask he smiled a bit as his hand was being held almost lovingly by Anko. He took her hands with both of his and promised her that he would at least try to back off and settle down a bit. For a moment the two of them holding each other's hands was touching. As if it were a hallmark moment with a couple finally reaching a common ground with one another. It was sweet and beautiful with how everything looked. Ahem. Which was promptly ruined by a newcomer. As interesting as it is to see human interactions and love blooming in the air, I'm going to have to sadly cut it short. Utterly ruined. The King of Rats was rather amused with the topic of discussion and situation, but felt that it was dragging on for far too long. It had business to conduct on a very short schedule. You, they both said in annoyance. Yes, me, it smiled in return. It's quite touching that you two care very much for Amiya-kun, even though he's been gone for years. Commendable, really. Then again, for me a handful of years is relatively short. To what do we owe the honor of you being here? Dryly spoke Kakashi. As amusing as it was that night to mess with Amiya-kun by sharing with you all tidbits of information. I'm only here to really clarify a couple things and maybe assist you, It pointed to him, out of a certain hole you dug yourself in. Kakashi pointed a finger to himself. Me? And what do you mean a hole I dug myself in? You remember the bridge fight, correct? That's rhetorical, by the way, of course you do. While it was smart on your part to sit back and observe Naruto to discern his skills and abilities, it has inadvertently made him see you as a person to be protected at all costs, even if it meant keeping secrets from you. In a way, he's right, yet at the same time wrong. So you're saying he thinks I'm weak? Yes, it bluntly answered. I chalk it up to his whole hero of justice mentality. Why else do you think he took over all the fighting and ushered you and your team to sit in the back? Did you think he was showing off? Not in a million years. He was doing all of the work because he perceives that you all can't take care of yourselves, so he'll do it for you. A sudden realization came upon Kakashi. The royally clad rat had been following them since the mission in Wave. You've been? Yes, I've been watching since that whole ordeal on the bridge in this backwater of a place. And no, I'm not doing it for the sake of trying to spy on you or anything. I'm here to make sure that idiot doesn't accidentally kill himself or anything like that. You don't know how much that boy tends to cause trouble. The way it spoke, the last sentence sounded as if it were exasperated and annoyed. Alright, how do you fix it? Interjected the rat. Kakashi's exposed eye twitched in annoyance at how people were finishing what he was saying before he could. That was his job, to annoy people with and get under their skin, not the other way around. Fight him. Fight him? Indeed. Kakashi looked to Anko as if he were unsure if it were that easy. Surely it couldn't be that easy. With Amiya-kun? It is. Oh, and don't call me Shirley, it joked at the end. Sadly, it was lost upon the two shinobi as they never heard of the joke before, causing the rat to sigh and mutter something about backwater ignorance. But I urge you to come into the fight with the intent to kill. And suddenly its normally jovial tone was gone, replaced with a far more serious, deeper baritone voice that didn't fit with its current body. Not only that, but when you do, I stress this as much as possible, to take the utmost of caution. Under that peaceful and easygoing guise is an absolutely terrifying monster that even I take measured steps with to handle. Anko came to Kakashi's defense. I'm certain that Kakashi will do fine against Naruto. While he may be tough, Kakashi has probably over a decade's worth of experience and skill over him. The king of rats couldn't contain its giggles before it transformed into a full-blown laughter. Little girl, let me put it in ways that you'll comprehend the distance between them. To put it simply, he is the ultimate expression of overwhelming force when it comes to fighting. In all my years of living, I have never came across a being such as Amiya Naruto. 1. Indeed, even for a being made of mysteries such as the king of rats, the other being that was known as Amiya Naruto was an anomaly. It was such an anomaly that it managed to garner the attention of several other high-ranked and powerful beings within his organization of dead apostle ancestors. Never before has there been a being that was born with both their origin and elemental affinity aligned to sword. The one true specialization of magecraft that Amiya Naruto held as a human being bordered on classification of a true magic. Reality marble users were by far the rarest specimens that walked the earth. In fact, there were probably only a handful of recorded individuals who could actualize it, and all of them were dead apostle ancestors. Silence ensued the table as the information was slowly being taken in by the two of them. Alright. I'll have to pick up a few things then before this evening's team practice then. I might as well have my team take notes under the cover as an observation exercise. Kakashi sounded anxious. From his observation of how Naruto tended to fight, it was going to be pushing his body to the ultimate limit. So let me ask, just for clarification, if I prove my worth by fighting him, I gain his confidence in my ability to protect myself, ergo his trust. Amiya-kun hasn't exactly been a trusting person ever since he lost his arm, but yet that's how it should go. They both froze. Hold up. Can you run that by us again? Which part? He lost his arm? Anko looked as if she was about to gut someone. The left arm of Solomon took it all in stride and spoke of it in a casual way. Oh yes, indeed, it happened not too long ago if I remember correctly. A simply horrible travesty occurred that Amiya-kun was tied up and that resulted in him losing his right arm. Shame really. But I've seen him use his right arm. Oh that? Well, it's not my place to say, as it's a rather personal and touchy subject that he doesn't like to talk about, but in a way you can say that it is both his arm and not his arm. And to be honest, his new arm is, Well, it's definitely something else, that's for sure. Kakashi and Anko sank back into their seats. It was a lot to take in for sure. There was just so much that they didn't know about this new Naruto that it was almost impossible to find out where to begin. A similar thought crossed their minds, asking what the hell he got himself into all these years. As if sensing its time is up with the two veteran shinobi, it excused itself away, but not before leaving a few parting words. All I have to say is good luck then, and that whatever you pick up helps you because, well, it chuckled ominously. You're going to need it to fight a monster like a Miyakun. The way it smiled unnerved the two at the table. Well, I'll be off then. I bid you two a good day. Just like how it came out of nowhere, it disappeared from their sight off to wherever it fancied. Huh. I guess it's a date then, Kakakun. Anko rebounded fairly quickly. What? You're usually at training ground near the memorial monument, right? I'll be there to cheer you on then, she winked at him. What? Well, you look at the time, Kakakun. I gotta get back to work if I want to get off earlier in time to watch. You got the bill right? Thanks as usual. Anko kissed him on his cheek before she left. What a gentleman. Kakashi blinked, trying to process what just happened at the last couple of moments. What? I yawned as I wrote in a couple of notes in my journal, logging in some information from the books in front of me. Sakura wasn't able to hang out as there were some things that popped up at the last moment in the hospital, leaving me stuck in my house. God, I'm getting sick and tired of doing this research. Looking at the clock, I noticed I had less than an hour before I had to meet with Kakashi's team to prep them for the Chunin exams. Another thing I took note was that Miram's left arm was nowhere in sight, meaning that he's been gone for almost the entire day now. Where the hell could that rat have gone? Actually, better question, what the hell is there even to do here? It was commonplace for that rat nowadays, ever since he showed himself up to disappear for great lengths of the day and reappear at the most oddest of hours. At the very least, he could take me along with him so I wasn't stuck doing research hours on end. With how everything's been coming along, I'll be finished up by the time the trials begin. The training today went well without a hitch. Sasuke could now last a grand total of 8 strikes before my practice sword would land a hit. Which is fairly impressive considering her initial foray into the art of wielding a sword was abysmal to my standards. Well, I might as well have a small snack before I head out. I took a moment to somewhat organize the cluttered mess of papers that were strewn about before getting up and heading to the kitchen. Just as I was about to open the refrigerator, a searing pain was sent coursing down my arm, causing my left hand to grab at it in pain. A hissing noise came from my mouth as I grit my teeth. Oh, for the love of God, why are you acting up all of a sudden? And as fast it hit, it quickly went away, leaving me sweating in the kitchen. 10 years to live with this arm, my ass. I'll be dead in the next 5 if this keeps going. I swear I'm better off being a one-armed magus than this, I grumbled as I reached for a bottle of water and some fruits. At this point, I might as well make my way to the field. Walking onto the field, I noticed a couple of things immediately. 1. Anko was here. 2. Kakashi had a standard-issue Black Ops sword holstered on his back. What in the world is going today? Hello everyone, I waved to them all as I got closer. Ah, finally you're here, Naruto-kun. We've all been waiting for you for some time now. Wait, they have? I was sure that I arrived here on time, if not a little bit earlier than usual. Really, huh? What's the occasion? And if you say it's a surprise, I'm walking off the field. I don't really do surprises. Last time someone pulled a surprise on me, it resulted in me losing my right arm in the most excruciating way possible, a la having it ripped out of the socket. No, rushed Kakashi. Nothing of that sort, really. I'd like for me and you to fight so my team can observe some more high-level combat. They need a bit of a break, don't you think? Besides, I've been curious as to how well I'd stack up against you in a fight. I looked at them all strangely with a raised eyebrow. This could go either very well or incredibly bad, but it piqued my interest a bit. Kakashi was a pretty tough guy that could potentially go toe-to-toe with some of the top-tier enforcers of the Mages Association and executors of the Holy Church. Shrugging my shoulders, I agreed. Ah, what the hell? What could go wrong? Great. Let's get to it, shall we? There was a sneaking suspicion arising from the back of my head about this. Kakashi was awfully wired up and jittery. His form was taut, as if ready to explode at any moment. My eyes narrowed at him. I don't handle surprises very well. For this I was going to forego using Saber's sword. It was overkill for a situation like this and totally uncalled for. It would be like trying to use a crate of C4 to blow up an anthill. No. Against Kakashi all I would need is 2 weapons. 2 reliable and trusted weapons that have stuck with me through thick and thin. 2 swords that represented me and my ideals. Trace on. As I walked out into the middle of the fields, a pair of twin swords were traced into existence. One sword was as black as charcoal while the other was white as snow. Kansho and Bakuya. The married swords that represented the blacksmith Gonjiang and his wife Moe. The craftsmanship of the blades are extremely captivating and beautiful, and in a way they're best suited to my natural style of fighting, even if her sword was leagues ahead of these. These swords were created without vanity, and lack a sense of purpose found in other swords. They contain absolutely no fighting spirit to defeat its foes or the competitive spirit to challenge other weapons, and they do not have the desire to be famous nor the faith to accomplish tremendous feats. A perfect set of weapons for the individual that reflected those beliefs known as Emiya Naruto. Kansho and Bakuya. These swords were the first noble phantasms I had ever traced in my life, when before I could trace only paltry throwaway weapons that held no history to them. It must have been an impressive sight with my back to them as I traced my weapons. The field had fallen quiet when I turned around. Only the wind and the rushing water from the river filled the area with its sounds. If Kakashi wanted a fight, he would get one that would make him regret asking in the first place. Slow, the corner of my lips raised. I couldn't hide the excitement of fighting against someone I knew that used to beat the living hell out of me. It was only fair that I would return the sentiments back onto my old teacher. Neither of us spoke a single word as we readied ourselves. There would be no need for words here. Our blades will do the talking for us. From there we will communicate and convey our thoughts and emotions with each strike. Off the corner of my eye I saw his team and Anko waiting with bated breath for the first move. Looking back, Kakashi had moved his headband to reveal his swirling Sharingan eye. So that's how it was going to be, huh? I guess he's taking it very serious against me and not pull any punches. Well, that just means I have to return the favor. Flooding my circuits with prana, I reinforced my body to prepare for the onslaught. The thrill of the fight coursing through my veins as adrenaline began pumping. One moment we were both standing apart from each other no more than 30 meters. And suddenly the world became a blur as I vanished from my spot. Our blades clash and I see Kakashi's irises widen exponentially. His blade creaked and groaned under the pressure I was exerting from my twin swords. They were going to snap soon. I grinned. It was those rare moments where I exuded confidence that bordered on being arrogant. He was trying to match me in a contest of swordsmanship. It was only right that Emiya Naruto responded in kind. Kakashi grunted as he was pushed back by a flurry of attacks sent by Naruto. Damn these dual swords of his, he cursed. I was preparing myself for that invisible blade of his, yet he decides to pull a fast one on me. Wonder what made him decide not to use it. Swoomph. He ducked just in time to avoid getting his head sliced off. I know this is a spar, but this is ridiculous. The little white rat was correct after all. Naruto was a monster in combat. Seeing it was one thing. Experiencing it was another. Dropping low, he swept his legs to catch his opponent off guard but was met with air. Clicking his tongue in annoyance, he bounded backwards to give himself some room, which caused Naruto press on with his offensive. How annoyingly incessant. Since their fighting began, Naruto had been pushing forward constantly. There was no such thing as retreating or going back, only forward. If you asked Kakashi, he would say it was a boneheaded thing to do in a fight, but for some reason it suited Naruto perfectly. The aggressive pushes and stances were causing him to backpedal more often than not. There wasn't enough time to properly lay out the next step to counter. Earlier he had tried placing an earthen wall between them to give him a second of breather. Naruto had decided to become a human wrecking ball and smash through the middle, surprising him. Who the hell is that suicidal to even attempt something like that? The son of Hokage Sakuma was not fully prepared to handle outlandish tactics that weren't used in conventional battles. Then again, Emiya Naruto was far from conventional. Kicking himself up into the air, he quickly flowed through several hand seals and bellowed out his technique. Katan Hozenka! A sizable volley of small fireballs were spat out of his mouth in an unpredictable manner at almost supersonic speed towards his target. Some missed, but a few hit their markers that stalled him just a bit. The way he was swatting the projectiles made him narrow his eyes. Those swords are truly something else. Completely unblemished, even though one of those fireballs has enough power to gut an entire room. What kind of swords were they? Earlier, before when they first clashed, it had easily snapped his standard-issue sword easily, and not a single scratch was made in return. He even tried applying his lightning chakra to reinforce the blade, but it was for naught. He would have to continue to poke and prod for more information. Naruto was most certainly a strange anomaly that did not fight conventionally. Falling down after the last fireball was sent out, he immediately heard two objects slicing through the air and the post-throw form of Naruto crossing his arms. The former ANBU captain's eyes widened as the black and white swords spinning towards him from his left and right respectively. Digging into his pouch, he flicked a handful of shuriken to each weapon to hopefully deflect them. Instead, to his shock, they were sliced in half cleanly and continued on their path uninterrupted. Being forced to duck again, he felt several hairs on the back of his head being shaved off by a close call. Rolling backwards, he observed as the two weapons actually curved back towards their owner, who deftly caught them and glared. I'm getting real sick and tired of Naruto pulling one surprise after another on me. What's next? Is he going to pull out a sword that can blow up a mountain? The momentary pause gave him some breathing room at least. He was going to have to be the first one to kick things up a notch. Higher level techniques were needed here. The man who copied over 1,000 techniques needed to find out the limits to the durability of his opponent's weapons. Conventional and low-rank elemental techniques weren't cutting it. Time to break out the S-rank techniques now. Grasping his right forearm, the man gathered copious amounts of chakra and formed his signature technique. Raikiri. One could say it was overkill for just a spar, but he needed to find the ceiling in Naruto's abilities. This was merely going to be the tool to gauge the height. Clapping his left hand to his right, the technique was evenly distributed so he could dual-wield the technique to counter the two swords. Pumping as much chakra as he could into his legs without exploding his circulatory system. It blasted him off towards the man in front of him, almost instantly. It caught his opponent off guard at the audacity of it, but responded in kind with his own attack. Here goes nothing. Two hands met two swords. Two hands shattered two swords. Success. Now all he had to win was just touch him, and the battle would be over. The shock alone from the amount of lightning chakra held in either hands would paralyze him momentarily. Time almost slowed down as his hands reached ever so closely. Kakashi could practically taste victory in this bout. Trace on. The two alien words that came out of his mouth spelled danger. Those two alien words spawned the same two swords he had just shattered momentarily not too long ago. And those two swords deflected his hands upwards when he was barely inches away from giving Naruto a shock of a lifetime. Before he could do anything else, Kakashi immediately snapped a kick into his abdomen, sending the blonde man backwards, crashing into the ground and doubling over. He had to shake his foot a bit. Damn, what the hell is he made out of? It was like kicking a sheet of metal or something. His Sharingan was working overtime, assessing the situation and environment around him. Just before he could claim victory, his left eye caught what he said just before the same black and white swords came out of nowhere. To race on, he tested out the words. What did those two words mean? Obviously it did something, as those two swords immediately came into existence. Was he summoning them somehow? How many did he have in stock? Where was he summoning them from? Did he have a summoning seal tattoo somewhere on his arms? So many questions and so little answers. Hatake Kakashi went through the motions of activating his lightning blade once more. More information was needed, and he would have it one way or another. Damn that man, seriously. I took a moment to rub my stomach that would have probably been blown out through my back if I hadn't been reinforcing my body. I thought this is supposed to be a damn sparring match, not a battle to the death. What the hell, Kakashi? A part of me was a bit peeved and the other impressed. I had forgotten how much of a monster Kakashi was, or rather still is. The man in front of me was definitely leagues ahead of the two swordsmen on the bridge. In the back of my head I got the feeling back and wave on the bridge, Kakashi was playing hokey and stayed back just to observe me, because with this level of strength and speed I have no doubt he would have crushed the rogue ninjas. Then again, he had a team and client to watch over, so that must have factored in a great deal, but whatever. All I'm getting from this was that it was going to be a hell of a hard fight, and I really didn't want to accidentally kill him by pulling out some more serious noble phantasms. But goddamn was he tempting me to do so with how close he's came to lopping my head off a couple of times. Kansho and Bakuya were doing a great job anyways. I missed using these two swords as they felt like they were a part of me. It just felt good to hold them in my hands. They were reliable. They were steady. They were dependable. But most of all, they were beautiful. In a way, I understand why Archer favored these twin swords the most. Not because of their short tracing time or the dual-wielding style, but because of the beauty it represented. And that beauty was being a nameless hero of justice that desired neither praise nor glory for his efforts. Perfect for someone like me and him. From the distance I could see Kakashi charging in once more with a righteous fury, both hands being coated with lightning chakra. I was going to need a little boost. Kansho and Bakuya can provide me that boost. I sped towards Kakashi to meet him in the middle of his charge. My arms crossed my chest as I ran. A calm breath escaped me as I concentrated. The first line should do. Spirit and technique, flawless and firm. The twin swords of Gonjiang and Moe thrummed to life. I felt them through my hands, eager to test their mettle once more against my former teacher's technique. I was ready. They were ready. My swords met his hands. Once more the world exploded around us as our attacks collided with each other. Mitarashi Enko's jaw was lifted unhinged and kept blinking while she took care of Kakashi. Naruto, will you quit fidgeting please? Asked Sakura. Haha, I laugh and apologize, sorry, it just really hurts. Seriously, it did. Kakashi knew how to kick and he engraved the sole of his sandals into my gut. Plus it didn't help that he knew how to spam elemental techniques out the ass like I would with swords. Sakura, bless her, smacked in a sore spot. Ouch. Geez, didn't you take like a Hippocratic oath to do no harm? A what oath? Oh, that's right. Different type of doctors and rules over here on this continent. Never mind, don't worry about it. I quickly dismissed. Well, apart from very minor lacerations and bruising here and there, you should be fine after some bed rest. I did my best, so don't go off doing any more crazy stunts like this one you just did. Damn, she was good at her job. Healing and all that stuff. I was never really into the whole medical sciences, but it did pique my interest at one point. So for me it was rather impressive for someone like her to do all of this for me. I nodded and performed a sloppy salute. Yes, ma'am. No jumping into a fight against Kakashi for a long while for me. The girl giggled and rolled her eyes. Silly, take it seriously, geez. Doctor's orders alright? Alright, doctor's orders. Gotcha. I gave a small smile in reassurance so she'd stop fretting over me. Naruto. I heard my name being called out by one of his students. What, were those swords? And how did you summon them so quickly? It was Sasuke actually. I'm a bit surprised they haven't asked yet, but then again I usually up and leave before anyone could ask. It was better than making up some half-assed lie really. I was certain that I could at least impart a little bit of knowledge to satisfy their curiosity. Kansho and Bakuya are their names. Noble phantasms that I projected and reinforced from my mind into the real world. Noble phantasms? Asked Kakashi. Yes. I guess the best way to explain what a noble phantasm are that they are crystallized mysteries, powerful armaments made using the imagination of humans as their core. The embodiment of the ultimate mysteries of a hero that symbolizes his or her existence through historical facts and anecdotes. Really, that was the best way I could explain it. I'm fairly certain that Tosaka would have been able to explain it better than me, but she wasn't here currently. So, like a weapon of a hero? Summarized Enko. I nodded. That was pretty much it in a nutshell, I suppose. And what hero wielded those swords then? 'Cause I've never heard of them in my life, so they must have been pretty insignificant. The voice was dripping with derisiveness. I looked and saw it was Daisuke with his usual smug mug. My lips were pursed together, as if I had swallowed something rather sour. Far from it actually, I said hotly as I shifted my seating on the ground. This guy really knew how to push my buttons, insulting Kansho and Bakuya like that. Time for a history lesson. They all perked up, especially Sasuke and Sakura. The tale that I would tell will be of heroic spirit Emiys. Kansho and Bakuya were his signature swords, so it can be said they are mine as well. The hero who wielded the twin swords was a nameless hero who believed in the concept of being a hero of justice. He desired neither glory nor prestige in his endeavors, while others may heap rewards onto him he would never ask for it. I could feel Kakashi narrowing his eyes. Did I make the story too obvious already? It was too late, no going back now. You see, he too only desired to save people. Those swords he wielded represented that. They were created without vanity, without pride, and not a single desire to be famous, just like him. My eyes drifted off beyond them. His story mirrored my story. We were one and the same. And so he traveled the world with those two swords, saving people however he can. But then it came time when had to make a life-changing decision. The right arm began shaking. I closed my hand to make a fist to quell it. The nameless hero was faced with a calamity that had the possibility of killing over 100 people before him. He had two choices: save as many as he could, which was only a handful, or save his own life. Which one do you think he made? I asked them. They were silent. It was a question directed to Tsubasa Daisuke, really. His head turned away from as if he couldn't, or rather wouldn't, answer the question. Neither. He made another choice instead. What was that choice? Earnestly replied Sasuke. Sounds like she was really getting into the story. Sadly for her, it was a tragic story. He called out to the world, asking for a miracle, and the world answered back. He made a contract with it, enabling him to produce a miracle that saved all those people's lives. The next line that I spoke just came out of my mouth. Something in me compelled me to speak it. If doing that means no one will cry, then so be it. For the life of me I couldn't find the reason why I was trying so hard to defend Archer. Maybe because I felt like he was insulting Emiya, so in a way I was getting insulted as well? Or maybe it was the fact that I cherished Kansho and Bakuya since we shared a sordid history. And what happened after that? He died. Everyone recoiled in shock at the abrupt end. He died? I nodded. Yes. The people he saved betrayed him, thinking him to be the mastermind behind the calamity. So he was executed just like that. That's terrible, said Sakura. Indeed, ironically, he didn't felt betrayed at all. In the end, he was glad being able to save all those people, even at the cost of his life. Is that it? No happy ending? My head shook. There was no happy ending for Archer. His decision to make a contract with the world to become a counter-guardian would forever seal his fate unless there was another holy grail that could grant a wish to free him. Some heroes don't get a happy ending. Most of the time it's the exact opposite of what they want. Then, what about you? Sakura asked softly. I really don't know how to answer that. Looking away from them, I rubbed my right arm, feeling unsure about myself. I had to choose my words carefully. I don't know, I suppose, with what I've done over the years, with the decisions I've made, I doubt I'll get the ending that I want. It was impossible. It would require two miracles to simultaneously occur. One had to wait, the other continuously pursue endlessly. The world was a cruel place to live in. Well, enough of that story. Anything else your curious minds would like to know? I changed the subject. I didn't feel like talk about this anymore. Plus, everyone was starting to look a bit dour. Kakashi looked to be deep in thought. He was a genius. A once-in-a-generation type. The connections in that story about Archer and me were obvious to the naked eye. A person just had to be able to connect the dots. Thankfully, Kakashi decided to steer the subject to something else. What's this thing that you said? Terei-san? What kind of jutsu is that? Not jutsu. Thaumaturgy. And well, I guess you can say it's an incantation for me to give form to what's in my mind, I explained. My version of projecting was a mistake through and through. It was something that I had done wrong but kept doing over and over until I was given results. Tracing was a byproduct of me trying to project an object in its entirety rather than a hollow object that was usually associated with normal projection. Tracing allows me to reproduce the shape and substance of an object or thing, but also the entirety of its history. Prove it. That has to be a joke you're pulling on us, challenged Daisuke. Oh, for the love of the root. Was he going to just challenge me on everything? An annoyed glare was sent his way as I huffed a bit of air. My pride was on the line here and I wasn't going to take shit from some haughty, arrogant asshole. What can I say? I'm a fairly petty person who likes to one-up people. Trace on. I traced a sword from Unlimited Blade Works into the real world. It was Uchiha Sasuke's Chikudo to be exact, with its sheath to go along with it. Standing up, I took a moment to pull the sword out and brandished it to them all. Uchiha Sasuke's sword. No name given to it. This blade was first forged over a year ago, 19 months, 2 weeks, 5 days, and 9 hours to be exact. Made by the Higurashi family with the usage of Tamahagain and Chakra Reactive 1095 steel, it took them exactly 7 months to forge and complete. It currently has not killed anyone and has been held by at least 5 people in total. 6 if you include me. This sword was a gift on Uchiha Sasuke's birthday on July 23rd by Tsubasa Daisuke and is only one of its kind in Konohagakure. It was robotic. I could feel my eyes almost glaze over as I listed out everything of importance. That was the mistake of me attempting to learn how to project an object into existence. I mentally divided the process of tracing into 7 steps. Judging the concept of an object's creation. Hypothesizing its basic structure. Duplicating the composition material. Imitating the skill of its making. Sympathizing the experience of its growth. Reproducing the accumulated years. And finally excelling every manufacturing process as much as possible. Due to this, I had inadvertently created something new in the world of thaumaturgy that hasn't happened in almost a millennia. It was considered impossible to recreate an item one for one, but little old me was a stubborn little kid that tried wading his way into a world of magecraft, and stumbled along the way. Somehow, with absolutely pure luck, I stumbled the right way and made something that worked. No. Fucking way. Language. Tsubasa automatically chastised Kakashi. That's amazing, Naruto-kun, complimented the pink-haired girl. I stretched while rubbing my stomach where Kakashi kicked me. Damn, my former teacher kicks like a mule. Would you believe me if I told you it was a mistake? Really? She said in disbelief. I was trying to do something else and ended up doing it wrong for the past, maybe 8 years? Something like that, before someone finally told me I was doing it wrong, but by then I was already set in my ways. That was a kick in the ass to see Tosaka's gobsmacked face when I told her that. I smiled fondly at those simpler times. Yeah, anyways. Any more questions? Or would you all like for me to show you some more tricks? Maybe pulling a bunny out of a hat. I couldn't help but tease them all a bit, as I felt like I was putting on a magic show the entire time. Oh? Can you, Naruto? That would be great entertainment, actually, jovially said Kakashi. His eyes were smiling in their usual way. Of course that jackass would say that. Would you like dinner to go along with that show? I replied sarcastically. If you insist, Naruto-kun. I'm very happy that you so willing offered free food. I walked right into that. Alright. Whatever. Come by whenever, I guess. I threw my hands in the air in exasperation. No point in fighting Kakashi when it came to a free meal. Aha! Thank you. I'll be sure to come by as soon as possible. A yawn escaped me that stretched my stomach, causing me to wince. Well, if we're all done for today, then I'll be heading back home. Hope your team was able to take whatever notes they could from our spar. There was no way you could call it a spar. It felt more like Kakashi trying to release some steam and find out the extent of my abilities. It was plain as day as to what he was trying to do, but I didn't mind it at all. I had a whole lot more underneath my sleeve that I wasn't going to part with. Nope. His voice was awfully cheery. Almost like he was happy for me to be going. Maybe it was the prospect of free food. Everyone. Say thank you as usual for Naruto-kun helping us out today. Thank you, Naruto-kun. As always, it was sincere from Sakura. Thank you, thank you. Sasuke stumbled a bit but quickly caught herself. That girl, I swear. Daisuke sneered his nose at me and looked away. He gave a cursory glance at Sasuke, giving her a strange look. Basically, almost the typical way the training sessions usually end. Have a nice night, everyone. I waved my hand in the air as I walked off. Home sounded awfully nice right about now. The people that were left on the field watched as Naruto's back disappeared in the distance before Kakashi spoke up to address them. This was all incredibly informative tonight. So as much as my fight was more of a personal thing, there were several lessons that you can take away here. And what was that, sensei? Asked Sakura. How to manage with an aggressive opponent that puts you on the back foot constantly, explained their teacher. In here Naruto's style revolves in him putting pressure continuously to gain the upper hand. A bold strategy that's not typically applied by Shinobi but works in his regard. The first couple of times I tried creating space by placing obstacles in his way to stall for time to think ahead. As you saw, he brazenly tanked it all and continued his charge. What did you all see me do when all other options failed? You applied the same pressure back to stagger him, answered Sasuke. With that lightning technique you were able to momentarily stun him to gain leverage. Although he was able to pull a fast counter by summoning those swords, so you had to improvise with a kick, albeit I feel like that wasn't what you were trying to do. Kakashi hummed, nodding his head. Correct. I tried stunning him to end the fight, but when he knocked my hands away leaving me open for attack, I had to kick him away to put some space between us. That created a lull in the fighting, allowing me to plan my next couple of moves to set the pace of the fight. There was only so much that his team was able to glean off from the fight. The objective wasn't to show his team high-level combat after all, more of an alibi to prove his worth to Naruto. Which was a partial success that Naruto had given some insight into the world of thaumaturgy. Hatake Kakashi was more than satisfied with what he was given tonight. Hopefully it would lead from one thing to another, with Naruto finally giving him a clearer picture of everything. The man wasn't a scholar by any means, his profession after all was a shinobi. It didn't mean he liked being ignorant about things though. Even if the fight was a stalemate since either of us won, the match was surely informative. This gives you all a chance at observing and understanding high-level combat. By the time the Chunin exam rolls around, this should second nature for you all. The veteran shinobi was more than confident in his team to steamroll through their journeyman trials. With that he ended that day's training, sending his team back home early. What? Not gonna have your team run a couple of drills maybe? Teased Anko. Or under all that bravado of yours, you're just all tired out, Kakakun? He let out a breath of air. No. Not today, we got him to open up a little more. I think, besides that night, he's been the most open with us about his abilities so far. Yeah, she followed up softly. Did you see his face when he was telling that story? It looked so contemplative? Sad? Reflective? Hurt? She shrugged as they walked back to the village side by side. All of the above, I suppose. There's just a myriad of emotions on his face when he was talking about I wasn't able to keep track. Neither was I, he agreed, enjoying Anko's presence beside him. But I feel like he left a couple things out. I can't quite put my finger on what it is though, never mind. We'll find out sooner or later, right? Right. Remember, we just have to give him some time and space, Kakakun. Yeah, time and space, repeated Kakashi. The story about the nameless hero felt like a facsimile to the life of his former student. The parallels and similarities were glaring, he'd be a fool if he hadn't picked up on it. That story was spoken with such familiarity it sounded as if Naruto was recounting his own life. Seems as if one question gets answered, a dozen more takes its place. Geez, when did it get so complicated with your son Minato-sensei? He would have to slowly take things one step at a time and unravel the mystery that was Amiya Naruto. I flicked on the lights when I returned home. Mirim? I called out. You in here? I'm in the living room, Amiya-kun. Well, that's good to know he's back in the house. I made my way towards the kitchen to cook up a small dinner for myself. So what have you been up to all day? I asked out of curiosity. Seriously, what does it do around here to keep itself entertained? Waiting for you, actually. Huh? I stopped my meal prepping and shot him a look. What do you mean by that? Amiya, there's something that I need to show you. It only ever used that deep voice for when it was something serious. This didn't sound good at all. Follow me, Amiya, bring a flashlight and keep up. And just like that, it made its way out the door with me tailing behind it. A sneaking suspicion aroused from me that I wasn't going to like this. Mirim led me to beyond the Hokage mountain, into the deep forests that sat behind it. It was long before we were at a nondescript cave entrance nestled away near a small stream. Mirim, what is this? The entrance zone of the cave was a tight fit at first before it opened up some more. Follow closely, Amiya, else you'll be lost in this labyrinth. I ducked just in time to avoid getting smacked in the head by a low-hanging stalactite. He doesn't have to tell me twice. Venturing down deeper into the dark zone, I felt a creepy chill being sent down my back. Mirim, you better have a damn good reason for bringing me down here. You know I don't like being in tight spaces, let alone caves, I groused. Concentrate on following me, I need you to focus, it chastised. We're almost there. My hands were starting to clam up, a feeling of nervousness was building up inside my chest. I did not like this. I did not like this at all. Amiya-kun, when we were back in Fuyuki City, was the Holy Grail destroyed? What? What kind of dumb question was that? Of course it was destroyed. I sounded incredulous. I was there when she destroyed it with Excalibur. Are you sure? Yes. My right arm would to think so as well. He didn't respond. I lost so much just trying to destroy that dumb stupid grail. So I think I can qualify to say that it was completely destroyed. Completely destroyed? It repeated. Yes. I mean, what is this all about, Mirim? We were wrong, it said with a grave voice. We stopped at an antechamber of sorts that lead to a man-sized entrance to a greater area. We were wrong? What was that supposed to mean? What the hell was he saying? The King of Rats waved me forward, ushering me in to go first as if it would answer my question. I gulped. My heart started beating faster. I took a step forward, shining my light into the massive cavern. Immediately I was blasted with a wave of malignant energy that almost made me drop my flashlight. Impossible. All around me there was pools of the corrupted Grail's black mud. Too many bad memories were starting to seep back in of that night. Something came out of this Amiya. Its voice was chilling. This must have been the thing that had it preoccupied all the time. When the Grail was destroyed, it spat something out into the other side of the world. I didn't want to hear that. I wanted to so badly ignore what the white rat was saying. It meant that her sacrifice was all for nothing. I stared into the abyss stared back into me. Chapter 8, The Chunin Exams Part 1. The hand of the clock strikes midnight. Another night of tossing and turning in my bed. Another night of no sleep. It's been like this for the past several months now, ever since the King of Rats showed me the massive cavern that laid underneath the Hokage mountain. Every time I close my eyes I can see the horrors that reached out from the dark abyss. Every time I close my eyes I remember losing her in that dark expanse, only seeing a bright light that was quickly extinguished. What secrets did Konohagakure held in its foundations? There was something more that certainly meets the eyes. Over the course of several months, Mirim and I were able to learn several things that would explain some unanswered questions. Questions that have gone unanswered for over a decade. It explained how Kiritsugu showed up on this side of the world. There was suspicion but never any solid proof of why the Grail had chosen this place of all things. Konohagakure and Fuyuki City shared a two-way ley line connection between one another. We shared several theories as to why these two places even shared a ley line. It was almost unheard of, really, even for Mirim. One of them was that by pure happenstance that they both somehow formed a similar set of caverns that ended with a massive chamber coupled with a keystone in the middle. The odds of it being formed naturally were ludicrous, really, but still a possibility nonetheless. Although if you looked on a globe, Konoha and Fuyuki were situated opposite of each other, so maybe? But there were no recorded evidence of this happening anywhere else in the world. The other was that maybe, just maybe, the ritual for the third magic was here as a prototype being placed by Justice Lizrich von Einsburn, Matuzoken, and Tosaka Nagato. It was another possible idea that they had initially chosen this place as it was far from the reaches of the Mages Association and the Holy Church. They would have free rein to do as they pleased to experiment with their rituals and magic, but with the rising presence of Shinobi and their wars scared them off to find another suitable location. Either one could be right. We'd never know unless we had a journal or diary to know what was going on 300 years ago. I took the time to go through Dad's old belongings and happened upon journal. After he passed away, I never bothered to go through his stuff out of respect, but looking through it was rather informative of his own opinions on how he ended up here. Kiritsugu shared the same sentiments that the Grail opened a connection to Konohagakure out of spite, and to inflict damage on not just one location, but two at the same time. It took a dying man's wish to instill as much pain and death as possible and revenge against my adoptive father. Sending him here was just the cherry on top of everything. I believed it. I know on first-hand account on how vicious and wicked the corrupted Grail was. The thing was not something any living being should take lightly. Never once I questioned the hows or whys of things. I never asked him how the fire started, why he adopted me, or how did he get here, why he was a magus, not a shinobi like everyone. Nor did I ever ask him why he never tried going back. I had merely accepted everything as is. Surviving that fire was a miracle. Being adopted by the man who saved me was a grace. At that time I was too happy to question anything. As I read through more and more of Dad's journal, it was clear that he missed his homeland, but more importantly, he missed Ilya. He missed his biological daughter, my stepsister. There were tear marks that stained the pages. He cried while writing that. Never once had I ever seen him emotionally break down. Kiritsugu always seemed like an unbreakable person that kept his cool in all situations. Dad's journal changed that. It was heart-wrenching just trying to read it all. Rolling over to my side, I grabbed the book and flipped it to an abnormally long entry that was made about a year after he adopted me. October 10th. It's been about a year so since I've arrived on the other side of the world in the land of the shinobi. It'll also be over a year since I adopted a little boy that I saved from the fires named Uzumaki Naruto. He's a bright and quiet little kid. Apparently he used to be a little troublemaker, but so far I haven't had any trouble with him at all. It was far from it actually when I adopted him. In a way he reminded me of myself when I was a child with Natalia. A precocious, solitary child that seemed far more mature for his age. But I wasn't complaining. We celebrated his 5th birthday today. The Hokage had stopped by to visit to wish him a happy birthday, although that wasn't the only thing he was here for. He was here for an update on the records that I was compiling for him about the Far West. It was an agreement between him and me for my asylum here. Anyways, that's not the only thing to mention. I love my new adopted son Naruto with all my heart, but I can't tear my mind away from Ilya. Irisville's greatest gift to the world. My precious daughter. She is alone right now. She is alone with that monster Jubstichite. There's an untold amount of things that I know he's doing to Ilya. That monster is undoubtedly experimenting and torturing my precious girl. It pains me to say that I am utterly powerless to do anything. My plight will go unanswered, to die quietly into the night. I would attempt to leave, but even that is an impossibility. Trying to leave the village from its walls would prove difficult with my deteriorating rate of health, along with no means to get off the continent and travel back. The frustration is unbelievable. The pain is unreal knowing that my daughter is suffering right now. It is indescribable to feel so utterly incompetent to do anything. I wish I could see my sweet Ilya one more time. I wish I could see her smile once more. I wish I could hear her joys of laughter. I write this knowing that I will never be able to see her again. I pray that I will have at least the ability to take care of the boy who survived the fire which I invariably caused. I've already ruined one of my children's lives. I'll do my best to not ruin his. I don't want my adopted son tangled up in my mess. It is my burden to deal with, the weight upon my shoulders are mine to bear. My sins are mine alone, not his. He's an innocent child that shouldn't have to witness his adoptive father lie in anguish. I'll do my best to smile often at him. I'll do what I can to be a good father to him. I'll make sure that I can make that boy live a decent life. After all, it's the least I can do for the atrocities that I've committed. Snapping the book shut, I rolled over onto my back, rubbing my forehead all the while. This, coupled with everything else, was the primary reason I can barely sleep nowadays. I huffed. It's not like I get any rest from sleeping either. A thought crossed my mind if things would have played out differently if I had read his journal after he passed away. There were things he had written that would have helped immensely years before coming to Fuyuki City, or at the very least gave me a heads up into what I was getting into. Ugh, now my mind is venturing off to what-ifs and other things. Rolling over to the clock near my futon, it blared in annoyingly neon red numbers 4 a.m. Only another 4 more hours until I have to meet up with Kakashi's team for the first part of the Chunin exams. I wasn't going to catch any decent amount of sleep. I'll just read through Dad's journal again. Haw haw. A loud yawn escaped from me as I walked to the building where Team 7 was. I was late. It wasn't by much, but it was enough to where I'll probably miss the pep talk that Kakashi would give. He'll do fine without me either way. I didn't have much of an input except maybe some tips about the things they do in the examinations to flunk people out. The plain multi-storied building came into view as I yawned once more. A part of me was regretting not trying to get some sleep. Walking into the building and going down the main hallway, I immediately heard fighting that was going on in one of the nearby open rooms. What idiots are fighting before their exams? I questioned. It better not be Team 7, most importantly it better not be Sasuke being a moron. My head peeks through the doorway, lo and behold it was Team 7. Daisuke, Sasuke, and Sakura were all down below with another trio of genin from Konoha. Thankfully it wasn't her that was fighting, it was Daisuke going up against someone that had quite possibly the funkiest hairstyles that I've ever seen. It looked like a bowl haircut that was reminiscent of. The train of thought stopped right there. That kid in the green spandex and orange leg warmers was a spitting image of my guy. Wait, was this his son? I blinked and rubbed my eyes to be sure. It had to have been. The kid was a spitting image of him. A sparring match was going on between the two, but things weren't going so well for Daisuke, it seems like. He was on the back foot from the guy lookalike with his aggressive pressure. Everything that was coming from him was pure brute force. The spandex-wearing teen didn't bother trying to maneuver around a block, he simply smashed his way through it. In a way, his fighting style was reminiscent of my own except without the whole leaving glaring false openings to bait an attack. Everything was well guarded, keeping himself tight from all angles and preventing a hard offensive onto him. Probably a tough opponent in close combat, but abysmal at even medium or long ranges. An arrow around 3 or 4 kilometers out would take care of individuals like him. An irritated sigh escaped from me. Part of me says I should break this up, the other said to leave it as be and let the guy get his ass beat. But if he gets injured before the exams and somehow disqualifies them, then Kakashi's going to be breathing down my neck about why I didn't stop it. And if he starts breathing down my neck, then I'm going to breathe down their necks for being a bunch of idiotic morons. Screw it, I'll stop it so I don't get an aneurysm from all of this. Moving from my position that overlooked the two teams, I jumped in between them. Just before they could clock each other's heads, and I grabbed their fists and pulled it behind their backs, locking it into a hold where if they tried to move would serve to dislocate their arm. You morons, I started, are you trying to get yourselves disqualified early? By the root, you two are a pair of idiots in a pod. Just thinking about how moronic your actions are gives me a headache. Ouch. Ouch. Shit. Let go off my arm, you asshole. I gave him a scornful stare. I bet you're the moron that started the fight, didn't you? My hold tightened, causing him to yelp in pain. They both struggled equally to be free, but I wasn't about to let go just yet. And you? I rounded on the other person. Why are you even sparring in the first place when the exams are about to start? Are you that excited that you have to fight someone? Did you know that you can be expulsed from the exams because of reckless behavior? What would your teacher think of you? The person I was holding stilled. Thank God, he was starting to become troublesome just to hold down. That kid's strength was monstrous. Jesus Christ, you guys are a bunch of idiots. I stopped mid-sentence halfway into calling them idiots. There was something that was making the hairs at the back of my neck stand on end. A rush of air was heading towards my head as a roar was heard behind me. Dynamic entry. Shoving the two away from me, I barely dodged the kick as it flew overhead. Pivoting on the heels of my feet, I traced Kansho into existence to cut the person down. To my utter shock, the person who attacked me had stopped the blade by clamping 2 hands onto either side of the blade. And Naruto? Huh! The man who sputtered out my name broke me out of my combat mode, sending me back into normality. Shit. Was I really about to cut someone down because of a surprise attack? Yeah. I don't really respond well to surprises. Getting a better look at the person who tried kicking my head off from behind, I saw that it was Guy in all of his green spandex glory coupled with a flak jacket to distinguish himself from his lookalike. Well, you certainly don't see that every day now, do you? Guy. He perked up immediately, bringing me into a bear hug that almost crushed my ribs. Naruto. It is you. My very first student. It's been ages since I've seen you. Guakuk. The hug from him forced the air out of my lungs. Holy hell, I forgot how freakishly strong Guy was. What? Oh. Sorry, Naruto boy. He let me down, sending me to my knees as I gasped for precious air. In my excitement, I might have applied a bit too much pressure. A nervous laughter escaped from him. Why yeah, hello to you too, Guy. I rubbed my sides, trying to ebb away the dulling pain. What the hell was that for? trying to kick my head in and all. Haha, sorry Naruto boy. I saw a stranger manhandling one of my students, so I reacted accordingly as punishment. I gave him a blank stare. Guy tried kicking me in the head as punishment? Oh, I see you and Guy have finally met. Kakashi's voice came from up above, sounding uninterested and laid back as usual. Kakashi? I got here pretty late, so I thought you'd be gone by now. Late? What do you mean? You got here just in time, actually. What? Really? I could have sworn I was late. Huh, alright then. Well, the first stage is starting soon, so we should probably get going, don't you think? Kakashi looked to Guy's team. Don't you want to introduce yourself to Guy's team? A single glance was all it took to see Guy with his team as he used his patented smile along with the copycat of his. An awkward, forced smile formed on my face. Hi. Naruto Kun. It is a pleasure to meet you. Guy-sensei has told me many stories of you. My name is Rock Lee. I winced at how loud he shouted. Wait, reverse that back a bit. Stories? About me? Huh? Say that again, please? Guy-sensei has told you stories of what you were able to accomplish with your hard work. Ever since then you have inspired me to double. No. Triple my training to catch up to you. Yeah. This can't be Guy's son. This has to be a clone through and through. Indeed. Our sensei has preached about your capabilities, causing us to push ourselves to meet those standards. Excuse me, I've yet to introduce myself. My name is Hyuga Niji. Ah, well, he sounds respectful enough. He even bowed, which I returned. The man wore a white kimono shirt with long, loose sleeves, matching pants, a navy gray apron around his waist, and standard black shinobi sandals. A fair conservative look for a shinobi. Ah, well, they might have been exaggerated a little bit. Nope. I was interrupted by their female teammate. We all know Guy's not the type to do that, since he's pretty much literal with everything. Hi. My name's Higurashi Tenten, by the way. The woman beside Niji sported a long-sleeved, high-collared white blouse with maroon edges, black fingerless gloves, low-heeled sandals, and a standard black forehead protector. She seemed easy on the eyes, with her black hair stylized in two Chinese-style buns on her head with short fringe bangs framing her face. I like that sword of yours, by the way. Is it some sort of falchion or dao? Maybe a mix of both? We should spar one day. There goes that. I tried putting what I did down as insignificant, but I apparently forget Guy doesn't tell lies. Well then, scratching the back of my head to hide my embarrassment. My name is Emiya Naruto, but you can call me Naruto. Nice to meet you all. And yeah, it's a bit a mix of both, and sure, maybe one day? Naruto and I will meet with you at the lounge once our teams are in the room, Guy. Let's just forget this altercation happened between our teams, alright? Thank goodness for Kakashi playing peacemaker. Agreed, my eternal rival. I winced. I really forgot how loud Guy can be. Lee. My wonderful, beautiful student. You should have known better than to get into a fight with your comrades. Let alone before the exams start. Guy-sensei. I apologize for my actions. I will run 100, no, 200 laps around Konoha with my bare hands. Lee. As your sensei, I will do them with you as well for being negligent. Guy-sensei. Lee. Guy-sensei. My face slowly morphed into utter horror as I watched the spectacle play out. In my head, it was screaming to look away before any damages could occur, but I was fairly sure it was too late. I don't think Avalon could ever repair the mental scarring from this. Hey pissed, come on Naruto, let's go before they turn to us. You know how Guy can get, whispered Kakashi as he grabbed my collar, effectively dragging me out of the room. Phew, that's a close one. Any longer and he dragged me into that mess. When did? Guy. Oh no, that's just a student he picked up that got enamored with the whole get-up. Not actually his son, but he might as well be, really. Well, that certainly explains it enough. I wasn't going to ask for any more details. We arrived at the double doors that lead to the examination hall, their first stage to become chunins. I wonder how they're feeling right now. Anxious? Apprehensive? I looked to study their faces. They all showed confidence of themselves. Team 7 had made leaps and bounds over the course of 3 months. My relationship with some of them have been rocky at best, but it was a favor owed to Kakashi, so I sucked it up to do my best. The information I gained from my research all but confirms who Orochimaru really was. Now I just had to close the house down, tie up some loose ends with the estate, and I'll be on my way back home with Miram. Hopefully Tosaka won't tear me a new one when I see her again. Alright, you three, I'm not one for speeches really, but I know you three will make it to the finals. Show the people in that room what you're made of. Don't be afraid to flex your arms a bit. That also goes to say to be mindful of how much attention you attract. That last bit was geared towards Daisuke. His character was a braggart through and through, so it was up to Sakura mainly to rein him in to keep a low profile when need be. I don't expect Sasuke to do too much since she's been keeping quiet to herself nowadays, which was odd since it was unlike her when we first met. Remember, teamwork is key in here. Watch each other's backs, alright? I expect to see every one of you at the finals, so does Naruto, right? He elbowed me. I guess he expects me to add something into his little speech. I sounded so intelligent. First part is no sweat really, so every one of you should pass with ease. Last time I took my exams they had some 10-question long test that wasn't really a test at all. Just an exercise to see how well you gather information and stuff. So really you can just sleep through the thing if you wanted, shrugging at the end. Turning to my left, Kakashi was palming his face. Oh, oops. I guess they're still recycling the old methods since way back then. Yeah, just pretend like you didn't hear what I said, alright? I probably shouldn't said that. I muttered while looking off to the side. A tired sigh came from Kakashi as I looked at him sheepishly. Alright, you three, get in there and do your sensei proud. Also try not to step on too many people's toes, okay? Come on, let's get to the lounge, Naruto. Yeah, good luck, don't sweat it. It's really easy, trust me. They love to play mind games, so just yeah, I'll shut up now. Good luck. I waved to them as I caught up to Kakashi. I swore Sakura giggled on my way out, and Sasuke smiling at me. I huffed. I'm in need of some serious sleep. We entered the private lounge area that was quite spacious and relaxing to be in. Jonin Lounge, huh? You know, I never did get the chance to come here when I got that promotion. I said it out loud more to myself than to Kakashi. Well, that's because as soon as you got promoted you pretty much retired a month later. You didn't even get to receive any benefits from the rank, replied Kakashi as he led me to a large sectional sofa that had 3 people seated. I recognized Anko from her purple hair, but failed to know who the other 2 were. Oh? Kakakun! About time. I see you've brought Naruchan here as well. Anko waved to us. Come. Come. Asuma and Nai-chan are excited to finally meet you. Nai-chan? And is that the old man Hokage's son? With how close they were seated to each other, one could make the assumption that they were dating. Yo, was Kakashi's simple greeting accompanied with his lazy wave. Hello? I bowed slightly, somewhat formally greeting myself to Anko's friends. So this is the vaunted Uzumaki Naruto, huh? Said Asuma. Ouch. Geez, woman, no need to dig your elbow into my ribs that hard. Control yourself, Asuma. You don't have to sound so rude greeting him. Chastised the woman next to him. I coughed into my fist. I'd actually prefer if you called me Amiya Naruto. I haven't used Uzumaki in a long while. Except for that time I introduced myself to Kakashi and his team back on that island. Alright then, allow me to introduce myself and my partner. I'm Yuhi Kurenai. The man next to me is Sarutobi Asuma. She was a fair-skinned woman of slender build from what I could tell, along with black untamed hair reaching her upper back, and very unique set of eyes that were red. Her outfit was a strange one as it was both revealing yet not. Must be a kunoichi seduction thing, or maybe it was a fashion statement. The man next to her wore the standard Konoha ninja uniform except that he had a sash with the kanji for fire marked on it around his waist. That meant he used to be a part of the 12 Guardian Ninja, elite individuals who pledged their lives to protect the daimyo of the land. He appeared to be a tall man, with brown eyes, olive-tan skin, short black spiky hair, and a beard. Sup was all he said. He sounded rather laid back like Kakashi. As we sat down, Anko resumed her conversation with them by including the 2 of us. Now with that out of the way, back to the betting at hand. How many do you think are going to be eliminated at the first stage? I didn't know Anko was a betting person. How many were there again? Wasn't it like over 100 or something for this year's exams? Asked Asuma. 153 to be exact for this year, so a rather large showing this time around, Anko answered. Since we have home field advantage, there's around 72 representing us for the exams along with teams from the sand, stone, grass, mist, rain, and well, one team from sound. She almost spat the last word with disgust. I perked up at hearing that Orochimaru was fielding a team for this year's exams. In front of me I saw Kakashi's exposed eye look towards me to gauge any reaction out of me. He was still interested in my business with the village's greatest trader. Earlier on I had spoken with Miram about letting Kakashi know, but he was rather adamant in making sure they were ignorant of who his real identity was. So in the end it was decided to leave half-truths saying Orochimaru had some illegal dealings with the Far West, leaving it at that. Sound, huh? Why is that trader's genin team allowed in the exams? Questioned the cigarette-smoking man. That's a damn good question, she bit out, crossing her arms. What the hell was the Hokage thinking to allow that team in? Asuma took a puff from his cigarette. I don't know what Dad was thinking. Maybe it's a trap to lure Orochimaru in? My lips pursed together. That wasn't a good idea. It was a terrible one, but I abstained from saying anything. Whatever the reason is, I hope Ibiki eliminates them on the first phase, else I'll do it myself if they make it to the second phase. My eyebrow rose in question. Damn, Anko really hates anything associating with Orochimaru. 4 out of the 5 great villages teams are here, huh? Kurenai was changing the subject to something else. This hasn't happened in a long time if I remember correctly. Security is going to be a nightmare the next couple of months. Kakashi looked up from his book. Yeah. ANBU has been going nuts lately, bolstering up security and defensive measure to take precaution for the sudden influx of foreign shinobi entering the village. Everyone's on edge about any of the participants stepping out of line. A scoff came from Asuma. Wait until the foreign dignitaries start piling in for the finals. All those lords and nobles are going to be annoying to keep track of. Especially with the summer festival happening right before the tournament. I covered my mouth with my hand to hide the yawn as the conversation turned to gossip among the active jonin. I didn't really have much to add in, so I opted to stay out of their chat. Taking a moment to look around the room, I searched for anything that could bide my time until the first part was over. Surprisingly, the jonin lounge was rather well accommodated with a bar, fridge, snacks, and entertainment pieces. Seems like there were quite a lot of perks to being an elite shinobi. Typical. In the corner of the room, my eyes spotted something that grabbed my attention. For me, it felt rather out of place in a land where people learn how to kill rather than playing a musical instrument. Situated against the wall was a piano. An upright piano to be exact. Looking at it made the corners of my mouth go up in a small smile. Memories of learning how to play the piano with Tosaka while Saber watched filled my head. They were good memories. Happy ones that I would love to live over and over again. Seeing as how I wasn't contributing anything to the group, I got up and made my way to the piano. Getting closer, I saw the golden stamped letters Yamaha. The piano's material was a black reflective material. There was a light film of dust coating its surface, meaning it doesn't see much usage. Lifting up the fall board to expose the keyboard, my fingers glided along the white and black keys. I couldn't contain the smile that was on my face. Lightly pressing down on the keys to test them, it resounded a minuscule off-tune pitch from the strings. It was still usable but would be in need of servicing soon. I could only imagine how Tosaka would be comparing this piano to the Steinway grand piano she had back home. Ugh, Amiya-kun, you could have at least gone for a Kawai or AC, Bechstein, or even better, a Steinway and Sons. I don't know why, but that made me laugh a little bit. Just the thought of hearing Tosaka berating me for my tastes and brands. I licked my lips, as a feeling of sadness and regret welled up in my chest. I shouldn't have just upped and left, leaving her all alone. It was a coward's move. It was a dumb move. A heavy sigh was released as I continued marveling at the piano. All I know is that once I got back, there was going to be a whole lot of apologizing and groveling to do. Oh? Do you know how to play? Someone asked from behind me. It was Kakashi. A little bit, I shrugged. The person who taught me is a lot better than I am really. She knows a lot more than I do. Then would you mind playing something to bide the time? I thought about it before answering. I'm a bit rusty, but I can give it a shot, Sitting down in front of the piano, I gave all the keys a test run while I decided on a song to play. All the keys sounded relatively okay, the piano would suffice. Whoa, someone's actually playing this hunk of junk? Always wondered why they brought this thing in when no one really knows how to play it, commented Asuma. Oh, Naruto-chan going to play us a little song? Anko teased. Going to serenade us Casanova? All four of them were now crowding around the piano. Great. I have an audience now. Well, I might as well play them a piece that I knew fairly well from heart. It's called a piece, not a song, Ankone. A song requires a voice, a piece is strictly instrumental. It was a common misconception for the public and uninformed. I made the same mistake as well when I started learning from Tosaka. She broke down everything for me to know about pianos and classical music after that. The song I'd play was reserved for a duet, a quatermains. Funnily enough, the piece was simply titled as quatermains. 1. I breathe out to relax myself, readying my posture by sitting up straight. Setting my fingers down gently onto the keys, I pressed down and remembered how Rin taught me the first time with her holding my hands as we played together. It starts off like this, Amiya-kun. So, these are all the other participants for the exams, huh? Doesn't look like much to me, said Daisuke as he scanned the occupants in the room. Sure. Daisuke. Shush, Sakura. Keep it down, we don't need to draw unnecessary attention to ourselves this early. Sasuke merely took the time to take it all in. Most of the headbands worn by the other genin were from Konoha, with a decent showing from the other great hidden villages. There were a couple of minor hidden villages thrown in the mix, but she doubted they'd get far into the exams. Daisuke's boast caused most of the room to turn their attention towards the team. Everyone, including their fellow Leaf Shinobi, gave them a questioning look with some glaring. You guys signed up for the exams too? In came another gruff voice from behind them. It was Team Kurenai, a team that specialized in scouting that consisted of Inuzuka Kiba, Hyuga Hinata, and Aburame Shino. They were also their fellow graduate classmates from the Shinobi Academy. Huh! What are you losers doing here? Hey you bastard, I see you're still that snide, cocky asshole from the academy, Kiba commented hotly to Daisuke. Bet you still think you're hot shit amongst us, huh? A smug smirk was sent his way. Duh, obviously. I can see you're still smelling like dog shit as usual. Keikibakuin, we shouldn't cause a scene, Hinata said timidly as she grabbed her teammate's arm to hold him back. Yeah, you better tighten that leash on that mangy mutt or else he'll get hurt. It was a threat more than anything else, one that he could back up against his classmates. Akamura, Kiba's ninja dog and partner, growled from its position next to its master. Down boy, we'll get this cocky ass hat later in the exams. You guys are sure making a ruckus, geez. Here I thought I could get some shut-eye in before the exams start, but I guess not. Complained a person from behind Sasuke. What? Whoa Shika! When'd you and your team get here, man? Kiba rushed up to give him a bear hug. Guac! Oh, let me go! Kiba let him down while apologizing for the brutish hug. We got here like 10 minutes ago or something like that. Then more on over here, he jerked his chin towards Daisuke, thought it would be smart to provoke everyone in the room. In typical fashion he sneered in response, looking away from them. Hello? Shikamaru! Ino! Choji! Greeted Hinata. Well, the whole rookie 9 is in this exam, huh? Sauntered over Ino. Hi to you too, Hinata. Love the longer hair by the way, she winked, trying to impress Kiba here, huh? The girl blushed in response, pushing her fingers together. No! I just wanted to try something different is all. I'm just teasing, girl. It looks fabulous on you. She turned to Team 7. So I haven't seen you 3 in a while. How's the oh-so-perfect prodigy Wonder Team going, huh? Especially the Mr. and Mrs. Perfect? It was directed to Daisuke and Sasuke. The black-haired teen flinched ever so slightly but held her ground. Old habits die hard as she slipped back into her haughty personality that was infamous back in the academy. It's like what you said, you blonde bimbo, smirked Sasuke, perfect in every way imaginable. We're going to stomp you and everyone else in this exam out of existence. At this, Daisuke wrapped his arm around her waist, giving an equally cock smirk. As usual, he was asserting his position at the top of the totem pole among them all. Is that so? Ino placed a hand on her hip. You may have been the best in the academy, Sasuke-chan, but a lot has changed since then. Don't cry too much when we knock you and him off that pretty high horse you've been riding on." Sasuke's hands clenched into fists, but before she could return a scathing retort, another voice cut in. "Hey, you guys should really keep it down." The person that came up to the rookie 9 was a bespectacled man with ash-gray hair. He wore a rather plain outfit consisting of a high-collared dark purple shirt over a white t-shirt and dark purple pants. "You guys are the rookies that recently graduated in the spring, right?" "Yeah? What about it?" answered an annoyed Sasuke. "Well, everyone's looking pretty green with how you're all just fooling around by causing a scene. You're representing Konoha here, it's making the rest of us look bad." It was said with concern for not just him, but for the others participating as well. "What?" some of the rookies said in indignation. Kiba muscled his way to the front. "Look here, bub, who the hell are you?" "I am Yakushi Kabuto," he flourished with a small bow. "Take a look around, why don't you?" And so they all did. The occupants of the room that were participating in exams were either glaring or sizing the group up. A decent amount that represented IWA held disparaging looks to the Konoha Shinobi. They all felt like they were like hanging meats on display in a butcher's shop. It was a dog-eat-dog world in this room. "I just wanted to warn you guys to keep it down so you won't get picked on. Everyone here is tense since it's right before the exams start." He was giving them a heads up, then he simply shrugged his shoulders. "Well, I guess it can't be helped though, since all of you are rookies who don't know anything about the exams." The entirety of Team 7 gave each other a funny look. Amiya Naruto had effectively given them a free pass for the first part of the exams, so there was nothing for them to really worry about. It went unnoticed by the rest of their peers. "Kabuto-san, did I get that right?" asked Sakura. He nodded. "So, is this your second time then?" "Nope, this will be my 7th attempt." "Huh?" The group stared on in shock. Were the Chunin exams really that hard? The promotion exams take place twice a year, every year. One in the summer, the other in the winter. This will be my 4th year as a genin trying to be a Chunin. That certainly placed it into perspective for most of the group with the exception of Team 7. Sakura pressed on to find out more about the exams. Any extra information would be helpful. "Then that means you should know the ins and outs of this exam, correct?" "Indeed." "Whoa, alright. So you gotta be an expert at this for surviving every time, right?" Kiba said excitedly. Well, sort of, I guess." "But, he hasn't passed any of them," lazily added in Shikamaru. "Oh man, that means the Chunin exam really is difficult, like Asuma-sensei said. Damn it, this is getting to be more troublesome than I thought. Maybe I should give my cute underclassmen some information then? A sign of friendship and trust between us going forward to the exams." He dug into his utility pouch before producing a deck of cards. "These information cards should interest you a fair bit." "Information cards? What are those?" questioned Sakura. "Well, in simple terms, they're cards that has information scanned into it using my chakra. I was able to nab some good information on people when I worked in the hospital." Right then and there Sakura narrowed her eyes. This person worked in the hospital? It was impossible, as she too worked there and not once had she ever seen him. In all her time working for various shifts ranging from morning to night, Haruno Sakura had not once heard of a man named Yakushi Kabuto working in the general hospital. "What's with that look?" He cocked an eyebrow at her. She feigned innocence. "Oh, nothing. Sorry, just a bit jealous that I didn't thought about doing that really. I work at the hospital too, so yeah. Ha ha ha." "Ah. A fellow practitioner of medicine and healing. Good to know." He smiled. Kabuto took a knee to place his deck of cards onto the ground. "Anyways, I have about 200 cards here that has information on almost anyone that you can think of. So for my first magic trick, I'll be taking requests on anyone in particular." Sasuke, who was taking it in silently, immediately jumped in first. "I got one!" She almost shouted it. Yeah. I have a request for a person in mind." Everyone looked at how out of character she was for a moment. "Oh? So who is it?" he asked amusedly. "Uzumaki Naruto." The group tilted their heads in confusion at the name. Why was Uchiha Sasuke asking for some random nobody? "Who the hell is he?" asked Kiba. "Was he from our class or something?" Kabuto rubbed his chin. He started flipping through his deck of cards before finally landing on one and activating the card. There currently isn't a Uzumaki Naruto, but I do have information recorded on one Emiya Naruto. Is that the same person perhaps? Sasuke looked confused for a brief moment, but nodded anyways. Daisuke gave her an odd look, leveling a stare at Sasuke with a frown. Ask and you shall receive. Flipping the card onto the ground, everyone gathered around to see the information written on it. Emiya Naruto, same age as you all. Oh? Retired at the rank of Jonin, huh? That's pretty interesting. Mission experience, 89 D ranks, 12 C ranks, 11 B ranks, 7 A ranks, and 3 S rank ones. Hatake Kakashi apprenticed him, therefore he had no teammates. Kabuto whistled at the next tidbit. Man, this guy was just plowing through everything. Promoted to Chunin and Jonin all within a year before retiring for some reason. After that he rattled on other miscellaneous information about Naruto. Apparently in both his promotional exams he came out of it completely unscathed, resorting to simply sniping his opponents from afar. There wasn't a single opponent that touched him. Man, what a scary guy, huh? Sakura was frowning. It looked as if she swallowed something sour. There was something awfully suspicious about this. Some of the things he listed out were information you couldn't just grab from hospital records. He was lying. Yakushi Kabuto had to be a spy. And yet no one was picking up on this. They were all too enamored of hearing someone complete an almost legendary achievement of dominating their promotion exams that was the same age as them. They called him the Archer because he used a bow to fight his battles. Now that is just crazy. What kind of shinobi uses a bow nowadays? He sounded skeptical, borderlining derisive of it. Team 7 grimaced together at the mentioning of a bow. They too shared the same sentiments as Kabuto on their first day of training with Naruto. He made sure to dispel any notions they had along with giving them an innate fear for arrows and a black bow. As one they rubbed their midsections, remembering the feeling of being propelled into the air from getting shot by one of his arrows. It was an action everyone noticed. What's up with you guys? Asked Ino. Kakashi-sensei called in a favor from Naruto-kun, and let's just say he knows how to use a bow, responded Sakura. Oh? How good is he then? Ino inquired further. We never touched him once. It was embarrassing to admit to a degree, but it wasn't without its merit to say they did get close to hitting him every so often. Everyone's eyebrows rose up in surprise. The best team in their graduating year was beaten that easily by one man? Ino looked back at the card on the ground. Well, at the very least he looks incredibly handsome, though he could stand to learn how to smile. The whole stern and apathetic face is a bit off-putting. After a moment she shrugged. Who am I kidding? I'd still date him. Sakura shot an irritated look to the blonde next to her. Geez, what is up with you and dating people you've never met before, huh? Hey, what's the matter? Afraid I'm gonna take your man him? Don't think I didn't notice you adding that affectionate kun at the end of his name. Ino teased, poking and prodding at Sakura for information on her crush. I'm not afraid of anything. Besides, Naruto-kun and I are very good friends. Besides, you don't even know anything about him, so I doubt it very much that he'd even date you. He's not that type of person to just date a person just because you asked him out on a whim. Whoa. Ino backed up with her hands in front of her chest. Calm down, I was just teasing Sakura. Geez. I didn't know he meant that much to you. In response, the pink-haired girl blushed, muttering an apology for raising her voice before looking away. We haven't seen you guys in months, and look how much you've all changed. I guess that means. Hey, why don't you try looking up some real shinobi, huh? A hunchback individual meandered over with two of his teammates. Sported on their foreheads were sound headbands. He doesn't look like much, some flaky blonde has-been sounds more like it. Sorry Shinobi-san, but I don't have any information on small fry like yourselves. I only carry information on people who are of note. He pointed his finger at them, and your teammates are pretty much insignificant. The hunchback shinobi growled, Why you? I'll show you what it means to talk down to shinobi of the sound. He pulled back on his right sleeve to show a metal arm brace that had several large holes in it. He reared his arm back to punch, but was stopped just in time by a door being slammed open on the other side of the room near the chalkboards. A group of people dressed in a gray uniform filed into the room, following a tall, foreboding man whose face was heavily scarred. Everyone silenced immediately, turning their attention to the presumed proctors. My apologies for starting things late. He had a baritone, gruff voice as he addressed the room. My name is Marino Ibiki. I'll be your lead proctor for the first phase of your promotional exams. His piercing black eyes scanned the room. It quickly spotted a trio of sound shinobi looking ready to assault a Konoha shinobi. You three, he called out, from the hidden village of sound, are you asking to be disqualified before the exams even start? Because I can do that right now if you'd like. Immediately backing off, he placed his hands in the air in surrender. Sorry, just the nerves and excitement getting to me in all those commotion. The stony-faced man at the front merely looked at him for a little while before accepting the obviously lame excuse. Everyone, please head to a proctor for your assigned seating. Once we have everyone situated, we will distribute the papers for your first test. The rookie 9 of Konohagakure all breathed in to calm themselves with the exception of Sakura, Sasuke, and Daisuke. They had nothing to really worry about for their first test as Naruto had inadvertently gave them a free pass. All three of them walked confidently to their seats, yet for Sakura when she sat down, a pensive look had befallen on her face. There was something amiss with the new character Kabuto showing up out of the blue with rather sensitive information about Naruto. It was all too detailed. There's just no way can a person have access to that type of information from hospital records, and I work there. I've worked there for a good couple of years now, not once have I ever seen him too. Something's not adding up here. I should tell Kakashi-sensei or Naruto-kun when I have the chance. A sheet of paper was placed in front of her. She made no move to touch it. The loophole to passing the first exam was that you didn't have to do it at all. I hope this isn't a sign of worse things to come. Haruno Sakura was preparing for the worst. A horrible knot was forming in her stomach, causing her to furrow her eyebrows. Sadly, she wouldn't know what would await for their team in the next phase of the exams. Wow, Naru-chan. That was absolutely amazing, said Anko. Alright. Most youthful of you, Naruto-kun. In typical guy fashion, he gave me a patented thumbs up and smile. I scratched the back of my head in embarrassment. Well, it's nothing really. The piece actually sounds better if there was another person to play with me. It's a duet piece in the first place, so I just sort of winged it with some parts. Honestly, it felt nice to almost zone out on the piano and letting my fingers dance on the keyboard. A small smile wormed its way onto my face when I finished. That piece would hold a special place in my heart, playing with Tosaka and having Saber as our audience. You're thinking of her, I'm guessing? Asked Kakashi. Huh, was my intelligent reply. That girl of yours, I mean. That damn rat telling them things about me again behind my back. I sighed. Yeah, her name's Tosaka, by the way. Tosaka Rin. If you were curious or anything. Rin? I hummed in confirmation. I looked at him strangely. Is something the matter? Kakashi had momentarily stared off into space when I said her first name. And no, just some coincidences that doesn't really matter right now. Anyways, how'd you get into playing the piano? He waved me off, steering the conversation back onto me and her. Funnily enough, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time when she was playing. I was so enamored by the sound, and the way she played was just magical. I winced at the unintended pun. Kakashi and Anko caught onto it and gave a little laugh. She offered to show me how to play. It was frustrating at first, but well worth it once I got the hang of it. Ha, that girl must have an incredible amount of patience to teach you then, Anko teased to me. My eyes rolled in exasperation. Tell me about it. She's a very demanding person and quite the taskmaster. It was great, really. She knows how to teach really well, even if she denies it. Although, she can be really bossy and stingy, but I think that's the main thing that I love about her. Sounds like you two were a wonderful couple. Makes me wonder if something happened between you two for you to be all the way over here and not with her. I looked away just in time to hide the flash of pain across my face. Anyways, Kakashi, I got something to ask of you that's been on my mind. I changed up the topic. I really didn't want to go down that road just yet. Oh? Sure, shoot away. Do you know of any cave systems in or around Konoha? Besides the ones ANBU uses and the civilian shelters in the Hokage mountain. It was a question that's been poking at me for a while. Surely someone would have known that there was a ginormous cavern system underneath their feet. Especially one that had a massive chamber that stretched on for kilometers on end. Nope. Why? Thinking of going spelunking down into some uncharted cave? Another grimace. And no, nothing of the sort really. Was just wondering, but thanks for answering. Just more questions with very little answers so far. A contemplative look befell on me before I got up from the piano to make my way to the bar. Maybe some tea would do some good? I wonder if they have any milk teas in particular. 2. As I rummaged through the bar, the door to the lounge was opened. In walked 6 individuals, presumably of jonin rank as the lounge was restricted as such, making quite a bit of noise as they did. I gave them an agitated look at their rowdiness. They looked to be maybe around my age if not a little older by a couple years or so. Early 20s at the very least. 3 guys and 3 girls of varying looks. I paid them no mind as I kept to myself. Unfortunately for me, they went straight to the bar of the lounge. My eyes rolled again in exasperation. I didn't appreciate the loudness coming from them. I preferred being in peace and quiet. Grabbing my bottle, I did my best to avoid contact. Hey you! Oh, for the love of the root and all that is thaumaturgy, why? Maybe they were talking to someone else in their group? It would be best if I ignored them. Hey! We're talking to you, blonde guy. From where I was standing I could see Kakashi and the other jonin instructors looking towards my way in distaste at the group behind me. Rivals perhaps with each other? Conflicting interests within the ranks of jonin? I slowly turned around to address the person calling me out. A cocked eyebrow was my acknowledgement of whoever called for me. Are you, hey, quit it! I'm trying to deliver a message for Tsubasa-sama. One of the girls was poking at him playfully, acting coy when he admonished her. Are you one Uzumaki Naruto? No. Sorry, you must have gotten the wrong person. I turned and walked away. That damn head of Medi was trying to get in contact with me. I guess he got tired of just sending scrolls and decided to send in someone to actually get me. But you are Naruto, correct? Damn. Looks like I'm not going to be getting out of this one so easily. They were more perceptive than I thought. I could feel that smug grin on the man's face behind my back. TCH, how annoying. Yes. What of it? I turned around to see all 6 of them looking at me. These were Sasuke and Daisuke's friends. People I didn't like to be around with or converse. I got a message for you. He threw a scroll with a bit of force which I deftly caught. I looked at them with an apathetic and disinterested expression. It's from the head of Medi. You know who he is, right? His tone was condescending. And what does he want? I replied evenly, leveling a stare at him. The guy leaned forward. Why don't you read the scroll, stupid? It's why I gave it you. He was trying to futilely antagonize me for a reaction. It's obvious that Daisuke has been talking to his friends about me. Typical gossip, trying to vent his pettiness to anyone who would listen that would agree to his opinions. Self-gratification, really. Shinji annoyed me with his gossiping back then, and it still annoys me to this day. At least I got better at dealing with inane childish schoolyard talks. The first time when I encountered that two-faced bastard I broke his nose with my fist. I was suspended from Hamurahara Academy for an entire week, but it was worth it. And just like that I turned around to head towards the other side of the lounge. Opening up the scroll, it was the usual message of the councilman expressing his wish for us to meet. Except this time, there was a threat that was slipped in subtly. It dealt with Sakura and how she would be unable to receive her proper medical license if I didn't talk with him. He had the power to influence the medical board if he wished to do so. Of course. Don't go for me, but go for others who would be defenseless in the realm of politics. Haruno Sakura was an orphan. Her parents were simple civilians who had perished in the fire. She didn't have the backing of a name, clan, or organization to protect her. How typical. The scroll in my hand crushed into chunks. Naruto, what's wrong? I have to go meet with a certain meddling bastard. I tossed the remains of the scroll aside onto the ground. It shouldn't take too long, I'll just get it over with and see what he wants. Enkone, the second part of the exams is at Training Ground 44, right? Yup, there's about 45 minutes left for the first part. Naruto, Kakashi got up, do you want me to come with you? The head of Medi isn't a person to take lightly. That made me frown, It looks like even Kakashi is wary of that man. I wonder why. I shook my head. No. I can handle myself, Kakashi. No need to worry about me. Just keep me informed if I happen to miss anything, alright? He looked as if he wanted to insist on coming, but relented. Alright then, just be careful. He's not a person you want to stick around with for very long. I nodded slowly. I'll have to play this one close to my chest. Gotcha. I'll be fine. Thank you for the heads up nonetheless. I'll see you all later. Just as I was walking out of the room, I gave one last look at them. Kakashi looked to be glaring at the group of 6 that was situated at the bar area. That was strange, as I've never seen him look at a group of people before as such. Like a mixture of annoyance and contempt. I sighed. Hopefully things don't turn complicated. There were relatively few people out and about on the road to the government office building. Lunch break was still a couple hours away, thankfully. I had just reached the steps of the relatively large building when I heard someone call out my name. Amiya-kun! It was Miram that popped out of nowhere. Miram? Where have you been all day? When I left the house, I hadn't seen him in his usual spot on the dining table. Busy sorting out information. I presume you're going to meet with that human department leader, correct? Yeah? What about it? Good, take me with you, it requested of me. I'll keep an eye on your back for you. I gave him a strange look. Miram, I appreciate it, but I can take care of myself. No, it wasn't a request. It's an order. This human, Tsubasa Toshiyuki, is an interesting fellow. There was some inconsistencies on his files on some acquisitions he made years back. It deals with the church. Miram's left arm was being rather forthcoming in his explanation. Usually he liked to play things in riddles, but not this time. So it must be a serious matter. Alright, climb on and stay hidden. Enthrall people if you have to if they get suspicious and I can't shake them off. I looked around real quick before picking the small rat up, letting him scurry up my arm and nestling himself in my jacket unseen. I entered the building, walking up to the front desk to check in. My visitation has been expected apparently for months, so I was let through with an ID clipped on as a guest to the head of Medi's office room. Coming up to the double doors leading into the room, I knocked on the door out of courtesy. Enter. The man had a rather gruff, commanding voice that was muffled through the door. I stepped through the doors, immediately being introduced to a surprising sight on my part. In my head I was imagining it was going to be some overweight, snobby minister. Instead it was a well-dressed man in a black and white kimono. He looked like some sort of samurai or a regent lord. From where I could see, there was the hilt of katana propped up against his desk, meaning he was capable of fighting. At last, we finally meet Uzumaki Naruto, he greets me. It sounded as if he were pleased at that prospect. I was getting worried that we would never get to talk face to face. A look of indifference was on my face. You've got your wish for an audience with me. Speak your terms. The pleasantries that he was trying to set up was brushed aside. I didn't have time to waste speaking with a politician. That was Tosaka's forte, not mine. She was always the better of us with the usage of words. Ah, getting right to the business. I like that. If only my son were a little bit like you, I wouldn't have to be such a disappointed father. He clapped his hands together. Please sit down, make yourself comfortable. No thank you, I prefer to stand. Oh? Then can I at least offer you some refreshments? Tea? Coffee? Alcohol? No thank you. He crossed his arms, leaning back into his chair. Suit yourself then. You must be wondering why I've been rather insistent in meeting with you. Don't you? I shrugged in disinterest. Not really. It was more like getting spam mail than anything else, really. The man frowned. How awfully rude of you. Ignoring your biological father's best friend like that. Minato and Kushina would be disappointed. An eyebrow went up. What's that supposed to mean to me? I didn't care what type of connection he had with them. He smiled, leaning forward, thinking as if I took the bait. Why, I was a good friend of both Minato and Kushina. I had the fortune to be placed on a team with your father under the tutelage of Jiraiya, one of the 3 legendary shinobi. That still didn't answer my question. He was just talking about himself at this point to inflate himself of importance to my eyes, which wasn't working. Again, what does that supposed to mean to me? Am I supposed to be surprised that you knew my biological parents? Or was I supposed to be shocked that I am the son of the Yondaime Hokage and one of the last Uzumaki? Humph. I suppose so on both accounts. I bet you are eager to know about your true heritage, Uzumaki-kun? I have a wealth of knowledge of them for you to get to know them better. They were. No. What? Not interested. The Minister of Medi recoiled in shock. I guess the man wasn't expecting that answer. What do you mean not interested? Your family's heritage stretches back for centuries, even sharing ties with the foundation of Konoha. You are practically royalty to this village, boy. He was doing his best to convince me of something that I didn't need nor want. And that means nothing to me. He narrowed his eyes at me. Nothing? How can you say that, Uzumaki-kun? You have the blood of Uzumaki Kushina and Namikaze Minato flowing through you. You are. I don't care. I can see what he is trying to do now. He's attempting to tie me down to the village. For what reasons? I do not know, but it's obvious what his intent is. What would your parents think of you treating them with such disrespect? He raised his voice in indignation. They're dead. Therefore, they're not thinking at all. They've moved on. I've moved on. It's simple as that. It was cold hard logic. I held no memories of them except for the pictures that Kiritsugu showed me, and even then I gave him a detached shrug at them. A normal person would usually be curious to know who their real parents were. Amiya Naruto was the furthest thing from normalcy. How? How could you discard them like that? The man was visibly shaking as he glared at me. You meant so much to them. Minato and Kushina were willing to give the world to you. Pushing them aside so callously like that is revolting. I apologize, but it's as simple as that. I am grateful for being born, but I am even more grateful for being saved. For all his faults and sins, I valued Amiya Kiritsugu over my biological parents. Even if he was seen as nothing more than an adoptive father, he was the person who saved me from that hellish fire. Saved? He said with incredulity. What do you mean by that? It's just like that. Amiya Kiritsugu saved me from that fire over a decade ago. He gave me a home. He gave me a life. He gave me a second chance to live. So some stranger is more important than your real parents? More important than some fake? I frowned visibly in displeasure. Kiritsugu was most definitely not a fake. He was as real could be. Just because he wasn't my real father doesn't diminish anything of him. And yes, to me he is more important than them. Uzumaki-kun. I see you've been misguided. I'm getting tired of him calling me Uzumaki. That wasn't my name anymore. It's Amiya, by the way. Amiya Naruto. Not Uzumaki. The man sent an ugly scowl. As if he was disgusted at the thought of saying that name. Very well, then. There was a moment of silence as we stared at each other down. Neither one of us backing down. I was being defiant for the sake of my ideals that I was given. He was being defiant for the sake of preserving his friend's image. Amiya-kun, do you sense what is emanating from his desk? It was Miram speaking to me telepathically. No, sorry. What is it am I supposed to be picking up? His desk. To the right of him. In the top drawer. He has a Bible. A Bible? Why does he have a Bible out of all things in his desk? More importantly, where the hell did he get one? Only executors and burial agency members are allowed here over on this part of the world. Not a single one of us has yet to contact a greater hidden village. We've only been able to communicate with the ruling lords of the land, and maybe roam a bit about the land. While it was a peculiar item to have, it wasn't anything special. So why was he sounding so concerned? Miram. It's just a Bible. A holy book, yeah, but it's just that. A book. The rat sighed. Amiya-kun, concentrate a little harder for me, please. Doing as instructed, I expanded my senses outward to pick up on anything. Right away I picked up on the natural holy signature that the book was giving off. As soon as I picked up on that, there was another thing that bleeped on my proverbial mental radar. Is he wearing a holy shroud, Miram? To be exact, he's wearing the Shroud of Mickey, the first saint to arrive on this continent over 400 years ago. Shroud of Mickey, huh? Is there anything special to it like the Shroud of Martin? It stayed silent for a moment before answer. St. Paul Mickey was a martyr that was canonized by Pope Pius IX. Therefore, the shroud that was used to wrap the remains of the saint was imbued with whatever conceptual thought that was given at the time of death. So what you're saying is that you don't know? I could feel him rolling his eyes. Of course, that's what I meant, you moron. Where's that Tosaka girl when you need her to rein that mouth of yours in? A grin tugged at the corners of my mouth. It must have looked strange as the minister in front of me looked away. Then it seems we are at an impasse, Naruto-kun. I suppose so. Is there any way for me to convince you otherwise? No. He laced his fingers in front of his face in consternation. The man in front of me thought I was nothing but a lost boy who had sought to regain his roots. What he met was a boy who had casted away those things for something else. Amiya Naruto's desire was to be a hero like Amiya Kiritsugu. Not a shinobi of Konohagakure no Sato like his birth parents. Very well then. Amiya. He spits out the name like it were venom. I have nothing more to say to you. Toshiyuki Tsubasa turns around. I have a feeling he can't bear the sight of me anymore. To him I must look like a traitor. I turned around to exit the room. As I gripped the handle of the door, I turned around to give him a warning. By the way, Minister, just a friendly warning, but I'd refrain from threatening my friend. I'll hear about it if anything suspicious comes up with her, and you won't like my response. And like that I left the room for him to mull over our conversation. The man received his answers to his questions. They were just answers that he wasn't expecting nor wanted. He seems to hold your real parents to an almost unreal level of fanaticism, Miriam commented quietly. It's quite disturbing how utterly devoted he is to them. Perhaps he's blinded from nostalgia of them, and wishes for things to be how they should be. How he had once envisioned it to be, maybe. I don't know and I don't care, but if he thinks he can get away with threatening a friend by manipulating the system, then I'll just bring it crashing down on his head. Oh? You care for that pink-haired girl that much? You've barely known her for less than a year. You seem quite smitten with her, Miyakun. I wonder what Rin would think. Ha, no, you're reading into things too much again, King of Rats. Sakura has proven to be a very good friend so far, so I'm merely making sure she doesn't run into any trouble because of me. The ruby-eyed rat crossed its arms. Fine, fine. Anyways, I'll be investigating this minister a little further. He's a crafty one, I'll give him that. You should proceed with caution from here on out, Miyakun. Oh? It was my turn to tease it. The great left arm of Miriam Solomon, master of espionage, was unable to uncover this mystery of a simple human? How the mighty have fallen! It grumbled in response. If you weren't such an amusing and peculiar human, I would have grinded you into a fine red paste all over the floor. I'm so thrilled to be an entertainment piece for a dead apostle ancestor. I stifled a yawn as I casually made my way towards Training Ground 44. The first phase of the exams should be finished by now, and Anko should be giving them the details about the second phase. If I remember correctly, this was to test one's survival abilities stylized in a battle royal to cull the number of prospects going into the final phase. In order to pass, one's team had to acquire a paired item that another team had to present to the proctor. This was guaranteed to cut down the number of teams in half immediately. I passed a sign saying that I was about to come up on the Forest of Death, which I rolled my eyes at. Forest of Death, my ass. Apparently they've never heard of the Forest of Inash. Now that's a real forest of death. Training Ground 44 was peanuts compared to the disemboweling sea of trees. Literally everything in there would try to kill you. From the trees to the grass itself, it was out for blood of any kind, be it human or non-human. Although I will concede that Konoha's infamous training ground was rather foreboding if a person were to see it for the first time in their lives. The chain-link fence that surrounded the training ground came into view along with the main gate with its booth. And sitting lazily in front of the booth was Anko chewing on a stick of dango. Konoha's finest, eh? There was a telephone pole that had over a dozen bamboo sticks embedded in it that formed the symbol of the Leaf Village. Pretty impressive. Ooh? Nero-chan, is that you? She called to me while waving a stick of dango at me. I looked around as it was completely desolate. So, I'll just assume I'm late. Replied Anko with a mouth full of dango. Did it just start? That was a no. How late am I? She raised a single finger in the air. An hour? Are you serious? I gave her a dry look at how we were communicating. Ah, now that hits the spot. She patted her belly for effect. So how'd the meeting go with the minister? I summed it up in one word. Annoying. Expected. The minister of Medi is a rather unscrupulous guy once you peel back the layers. He's got a lot of clout for the things he was able to accomplish back when he was an active shinobi. Did you know he was also on Dash? The Yondaime Genin team? Yeah, he told me about that plus a bunch of other needless things, I muttered out annoyingly. Like what? So I explained to her how he had tried influencing me to stay in the village with the hinted promises of accessing the Yondaime Hokage's inheritance along with the Uzumaki family, or rather what was left of it. I neglected to mention that I had left an underlying threat to the minister. Enkone didn't need to worry about my problems when she had to help oversee the promotion exams. After that she filled me in on some more details about what I missed in the last hour or so. Out of the 51 teams that were present for the first stage, only 24 made it to the second stage. There was a small comment about how Ibiki did a poor job at culling the numbers and how it was now up to her to thin the herd even more. I glanced to the side to stifle a laugh as she hasn't done much of anything except explain the objective of the second stage and munch on dango. Apparently just after she finished detailing everything out to the remaining teams, Daisuke had made an offhand comment about something which I rolled my eyes at. Of course, being Anko, she had almost made the boy piss his pants by throwing a kunai, cutting his cheek and at the same time catching it to hold it against his neck. That must have been quite an amusing sight to witness as Anko was cracking up at describing it to me in detail. A shame I wasn't there in time to see it. Midarashi-san. A squad of Konoha Chunin appeared from behind me. They looked apprehensive and nervous. All 4 of them were panting from exertion. My eyes narrowed. What was so important that they sent a squad to Ankone? What is it? She said seriously. There's been an incident just outside of the training grounds. We need you to come look at this yourself. Spit it out then, for crying out loud. A genin team representing Kusugakyo was found dead with their faces missing along with one of the proctors, he reported gravely. This didn't sound good at all. Take me there now. Naruto, come along. And like that their body flickered out of existence. This definitely didn't sound good at all. I give the forest before me a parting look. An ominous feeling was starting to generate from that area. As I sped off to catch up with them, I couldn't help but think back to what Asuma said. Maybe it's a trap to lure Orochimaru in? I hope Asuma was wrong. Because if he wasn't, everything's going to hell in a handbasket. Chapter 9, The Infinite Reincarnator. The 3 individuals that comprised of Team 7 sped stealthily into the forest. They made the barest of sounds as their feet lightly touched the ground like a feather. It was only moments ago that the second stage of the exams had started. As soon as the whistles were blown, they blurred from the gate, catching their gatekeeper off guard from the sheer speed they showed off. The objective for this part of the exams was simple enough. Each team were given a scroll that was half of a set that was needed to complete the course. If a team were given a scroll that was designated as heaven, then they needed an earth one to complete the set. The parameters being that the team couldn't open the scrolls until they reached the tower in the middle of the forest. Quite simply, it was a battle royale to thin the herd. We should lay low near one of the major rivers. It leads straight to the tower, so there should be a high point of contention with the other teams, spoke up Sasuke. If we get there fast enough, we can lay an ambush on another team, and hope they have an earth scroll for our heaven. Fine by me. Hopefully it'll be Kiba's team or some shit. That stupid mutt is gonna regret talking shit to me. Sakura frowned in distaste, but kept her mouth shut. This wasn't the time nor the place to incite an argument with her rambunctious teammates, so she settled with a nod to Sasuke. As one, they followed Sasuke's lead to one of the major rivers to lay a trap for an unsuspecting team. In here it was every man for themselves. No team was safe unless they had made alliances with other teams prior to the start of the exam, and even then they were possibly tenuous at best, as everyone was seeking the vaunted promotion along with the glory. Some teams went into it with the slimmest of margins for survivability. Others were placed in for sure dominance. Team 7 were going to prove they were the latter of the two. Shigeru. A team straight ahead. Looks like they're bickering out in the open. Heh, what a bunch of morons. Let's close in and get a better look, shall we, Midar? Bayu? Team 21, formerly representing Amigekyo no Sato for the Chunin exams, silently crept along the tree line to encroach upon their targets. They were a veteran genin team with about a year of experience under their belt that specialized in traditional aim shinobi combat. Each of them wore the standard get-up typical of a shinobi that represented the Rain Village sans the rebreather. "I'm telling you, you stupid bitch, that we should keep going," yelled a dark-haired teen to his teammate. "No!" The pink-haired girl crossed her arms defiantly. "We stick with the plan here and wait. There's no need for us to move when it's a guarantee that a team will come across this area." Their third teammate was rubbing her eyebrows in an annoyed fashion. "Ugh, please, can we not argue here of all places? Daisuke-kun, please. Just for once, can you?" The three aim shinobi ducked back down in cover to convene. "Holy shit, this Konoha team is dumb. It'll be easy pickings here, boys," said Shigeru. "Hey, yeah, those two girls look pretty hot. I wouldn't mind getting to know them after we beat them," Midar said lecherously while constantly glancing at the team that was exposed in the opening. "That pink-haired girl is my type, alright. She's got a set of lungs on her, I can just tell she's a screamer. What's the plan, Shigeru?" Shigeru, their team leader, thought it over. "They don't look too tough. Besides, it's two girls and a guy against three of us. We'll overpower them easily, and maybe after we acquire their scrolls we can enjoy the spoils of war a little, boys." A cocky smirk showed on his face, followed by the other two. "Let's do it, boss." He nodded. "No need for tactics. Let's meet them straight on. An honorable fight to prove our superiority against these trash." All together they leapt from their positions and appeared before the bickering Konoha team. Well, what do we have here? A couple of green, wet behind the ears genin team yelling in the middle of the forest. On cue they all shared a menacing chuckle. "You guys look like you're out of your depths. So here's how it's going to go. We're going to kill you first," he pointed at Daisuke, "and then we're going to have a little bit of fun with the girls before we go our merry way. No one's going to notice you scream in this forest." For a moment a standoff had been made between the two teams that stood what looked like 20 meters apart. The Konoha team at first appeared frightened at the AIM team. They even took a step back, which caused the AIM shinobis to grin at their apparent easy victory. They believed they had already won. At that moment they assumed that they had it in the bag. They were wrong. The black-haired girl's face morphed into a smirk. "Now." A soft hissing noise was heard. Shigeru's face contorted from confused to shock in a matter of moments. "What the?" He couldn't even finish his sentence before an explosion erupted between the two teams. A wall of smoke quickly obscured his vision of the other team. "It's a trap!" one of his teammates yelled. He hesitated. For a split second he hesitated his next course of action. Just as he made his mind up, something pierced through the smoke. His mouth opened to shout a command to his teammates. Too bad he never got a word out, as a sword pierced straight into his mouth with such force that it decapitated his head. The body stood stock still as it twitched ever so slightly from the still active nerves before it finally collapsed backwards, all the while spurting blood from the neck like a water fountain. The spray of blood from their former lead shocked the other two at how brutal the kill was. What the fuck?" exclaimed Midar. "Biu. We need to run." Baya to the left of him simply looked on in a catatonic state. "Fuck this." He made a desperate attempt to perform a jutsu. Midar was only able to make the ram seal before someone clamped their hand onto his and crushing them. Hey. It was followed up by the person smashing their fist straight into the sternum. The punch was so strong it ruptured the heart and lungs simultaneously, turning them into a pulp. His body was sent flying back into the trunk of a tree. It was a quick and morbid death. The final AIM shinobi was helpless as his two teammates were quickly dispatched. All the bravado that he and his team shared was gone in the blink of an eye. Where had it all gone so wrong? A sound was made from behind him. It was the sound of someone stepping in behind him. His breathing hitched as hot tears streamed down his face. He was going to die. Bayu, genin of Amigekyo no Sato, was going to die in the second stage of the exams. "I'm sorry," the person said. It didn't sound sincere at all. "It's either you or me." He sobbed once more. A gentle tap to the back of his neck severed his spinal cord from the head. "Well, that went better than expected," Sasuke noted. "Yeah, and fast too. I didn't expect a team to show up that fast as well, Sakura added in. Pfft, these guys were a bunch of fucking idiots. He spat on one of the bodies. Fucking thinking they're better than us and shit. Stupid fucks. Find their scroll already. I want to get out of this shitty forest. Sasuke was already on it as she retrieved her sword. Lucky us. We got our Earth scroll. Great. That means all we have to do now is head to the tower, and we'll be done. Happily chirped Sakura. The Uchiha girl nodded as she wiped off the blood that was on the blade. A satisfied grin was on her face. The plan went perfectly well. Almost too perfectly. It was a simple plan of baiting a team by feigning incompetence and weakness and blasting it out as loud as possible. A stupid plan really if one were to ask anyone, but it worked somehow. Sasuke pursed her lips together as she ran it all over again in her head. The plan should not have worked out so smoothly like that. The chances of everything going so perfectly to the T was abysmally small. It was starting to make her feel weary about it all. Something the matter, Sasuke? Asked Sakura. She looked up and shook her head. No, just, well, I didn't really expect it to work. Her pink-haired teammate shrugged. It's just like what Naruto-kun said. Keep your plans plain and simple. You'll be surprised by the results they can bring. True, but I didn't expect it to work that well. Hindsight is 20/20 after all. They took our bickering at face value and didn't stop to think if it was all a ruse. Well, I guess so, Sasuke faltered at the end. To her it felt as if everything was fabricated. That someone was pulling the strings behind the scene for the desired result. Yo, can we not fucking stand here? I fucking hate hearing that guy's name. If you like him so much, Sakura, why don't you go suck his dick already? You're already practically riding it, Daisuke rolled his eyes. This time Sasuke rubbed her forehead for real instead of acting it out. Let's not start out here, please. Sakura, don't. She held the other person back. And Daisuke-kun, please. She pleaded to him, silently begging him to not start an actual commotion between them. He clicked his tongue. Whatever. Let's get the fuck out of here then before more scabs start poking their heads in to see what's up. Pretty sure everyone heard that explosion we set off. And just like that he hopped up to the branches to make his way to the tower. Sakura huffed out a breath of frustration. That man, I swear, is completely deplorable. I don't know why you're still going out with him, Sasuke. She grumbled out the last part before moving out of Sasuke's vision. Sasuke gripped the scroll in her hand hard and bit her lower lip. That last sentence that Sakura said twisted the proverbial dagger in her heart. It stung. It stung quite a lot. I don't know myself. The girl heaved a sigh before moving on to catch up with her teammates. She'd figure this out later when she wasn't in the middle of a forest. A chill went down her spine as she looked at her surroundings. There was just something so wrong about everything that she couldn't put finger on it. Her gut was telling her something was up. Shaking her head, she pushed it to the back of her mind, simply chalking it up to nerves getting the best of her. The moment Sasuke left the area, a white snake slithered out of a bush, its forked tongue brushing the air in the direction of where she was heading to. Kukuku, simply splendid, Sasuke-chan. A man had been observing everything from the get-go. The man clapped his hands softly and smirked in anticipation at the coming confrontation. Now let's see how well you dance, shall we? At that the stranger blurred out of existence to head them off. So what do you think our time is gonna be? New record probably, don't you think? Man, I can't wait to see that stupid mutt's face when I see him. Haruno Sakura rolled her eyes for the umpteenth time at hearing Daisuke brag. Sasuke, how far away are we from the tower? Shouldn't be too far, I think. Maybe a couple minutes at most before we get there. Well, the faster we get there, the better. For some reason this forest is starting to become more unsettling than when we first entered. What? Got a bad feeling or something? Sakura, there's no other team in this exam that is remotely even close to us, Sasuke said with assuredness. We already encountered a couple more teams along the way and eliminated them with ease. And no, it's just that I felt like we're being watched. Before Sasuke could reply, Daisuke rudely cut in. By your being a pussy, Sakura. We've smashed through like 4 teams already and burned their scrolls. Dumbass weren't even paying attention to us when we were coming in. Who the fuck would be able to match us? Me. At the sound of another person's voice, they all stopped atop a fairly massive tree branch to look around for the person that spoke. "Grr," growled Daisuke, "where the fuck are you, coward? Show your face." "Right here." A powerful gust of wind that was indicative of a wind jutsu blew all three of them off the branch down to the forest floor. They landed roughly on top of each other and scrambled to right themselves to fight against their unknown opponent. Standing in the middle of the clearing was a rather effeminate-looking male with long black hair and black eyes. He wore the standard garb of a shinobi hailing from Kusagakure. A devious smirk played at his lips as he watched them struggle. My, what a messy bunch you are. I expected better of you all, especially you, Sasuke-chan." The man drawled out lazily to Team 7. "Who the fuck are you?" The stranger merely licked his lips with an abnormally long tongue. "What an absolutely foul mouth you have, boy. You should learn how to speak to your betters with some respect." An enormous wave of what seemed like chakra was released from his form, causing everyone to drop to their hands and knees. All three of them began to pant and sweat as they desperately tried to regain their motor functions. "Ah, it seems like you're not even able to handle just a smidgen of my paralysis. A shame, really. I expected better of Itachi-kun's little sister." A name drop. Sasuke's eyes widened as she heard the man casually say his name. His name. Her older brother who massacred everyone that night. Who was this man, she thought. No longer did she feel the unending waves of the man's intent of submission. It was immediately replaced by an unending hatred and desire to kill her brother. The man before her had knowingly flipped a switch inside her mind. Sasuke looked up and stared at him straight on with her Sharingan-activated eyes. She glared at him with a burning fury. Beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous, Sasuke-chan. And in pristine condition. Absolutely wonderful. He was complimenting her eyes. I can already tell they can surpass Itachi's own eyes. Her body was no longer shaking at that moment. It had long stilled at the mention of his name. I don't know who you are, or what connection you have with him, she spat, but I'm feeling awfully graceful right now. If you tell me what you know about him, then I'll cut you down swiftly and painlessly. The man only seemed amused. And if I don't? Sasuke slowly stood back up. Then I'll just beat the information out of you. My. Bold words for a weak little girl who's still nothing but a mere genin. What the fuck are you doing? We need to leave now. Daisuke whispered furiously to Sasuke. Did you not just experience what happened a couple of seconds ago? Don't be fucking stupid. We need to retreat. Daisuke's whispers were anything but that. They were clearly audible as the man in front of them merely tilted his head in even more amusement. He had even chuckled at the cowardice of it. Retreat? Daisuke. If you haven't noticed, he's going to be following us nonetheless. We need to stand and fight. Sakura responded back. We'll die running like cowards with our backs to him. Like I give a fuck. Do you not see how much stronger this guy is? Are you fucking blind, you dumb bitch? You're absolutely incorrigible, Daisuke. You're a coward at heart, aren't you? I'm not a fucking coward, you bitch. I know when to fucking fight and when not to. Apparently you fucking don't. Sakura and Daisuke dribbled on endlessly, arguing whether to fight or to retreat. It suddenly became all mute for Sasuke as she stood up straighter while looking upwards to the canopy of the forest. You foolish little sister. If you have any hope of killing me, then you should run, and hang on to that miserable thing called life. No. Uchiha Sasuke would refuse to run from this man. She would fight this man and overcome him. The enemy before her was merely a stepping stone on her path to kill her brother and avenge her family. I refuse to run like a coward, she roared to the heavens above. Unsheathing her sword, Sasuke blasted off towards her foe with an ungodlike speed. Her enemy's eyes widened at the ferocity of the impact as her blade was bladed by a kunai. Yes. Just as I would expect of the Uchiha clan. Show me more, Sasuke-chan. Show me your true power. The man spoke to her in an almost delirious-like state. Grapha! Sasuke yelled with all her might as her blade sliced through the flimsy kunai that her opponent was using. The man flipped backwards to create some distance between the two while simultaneously spawning over a dozen earth clones to distract Daisuke and Sakura. Sakura and Daisuke can handle the clones by themselves. This fight is between me and him. Shoving as much chakra as she could down to her legs, she rocketed towards him to catch up. Just like she was taught from Naruto, she had entered into his guard and stabbed forward with the point of her blade backed up with her two hands. The blow barely nicked her opponent's neck as he dodged to the side. She breathed in. She would let her eyes do the work and allow her body to follow suit. A silhouette of Emiya Naruto was standing before her facing away. The man in her vision was set in his usual stern, if not apathetic, expression. He looked back at her. "Can you keep up with me?" As if to scorn her, as if to believe in her. Her vision fires up. Uchiha Sasuke will catch up, and when she did. "You got it wrong. It's you keep up with me." Her sword slashed to the left, causing the Kusugakure ninja to duck underneath. She stepped forward and snapped a sharp kick. The man vaulted over her head to flank. She stabbed backwards to deter him away before pivoting on the left foot to turn around. They had a glimpse of each other before the man blurred out of existence. It was a game of speed. But her eyes could see it all. "I can see." The man moved so fast he was kicking up a trail of dirt all around her. "I can see him." It was all so clear for her at the moment. Every movement. Every action. Uchiha Sasuke could see everything her opponent was doing. The black-haired man lunged out at her with a fist that she easily dodged before answering back with an angled upward slash. His body twisted at an inhumane-like way at just the right moment from the blade as it kicked up rocks and pebbles that littered a tree trunk with holes. Following through the strike, she struck back downwards vertically at his midsection. It was a chakra-enhanced slash which her opponent had not expected. He had no idea she'd follow through on her strikes. "TCH, irritating," noted Sasuke as the man substituted himself with a mud clone. Her opponent sped off again, circling around her like a vulture with its prey. "Katan Hozenka!" Sasuke spat out a fireball just ahead of her enemy, forcing him to stop. Another volley of fireballs were shot out of her mouth, peppering his location. "Katan Gokakyu!" A massive grand fireball the size of a truck was bellowed out, engulfing his location and consequently obliterating the trunk of an enormous tree. As the raging inferno swirled, her eyes stared on into the flames, looking for any signs of life. Just as the fire reached its apex into the air, it was dispelled by a gust of wind from within. A black figure burst forth from the center like a bullet. The lone shinobi tried swiping at her ankles, but it was futile as she saw it coming a mile away and jumped backwards. She evened out her breathing and assumed her standard posture. Sasuke could see the grass shinobi narrow his eyes. He was contemplating something in his mind. She needed to be ready. Standing up from his position, he raised his hands up into the air before bringing them down violently. A massive vortex seemed to have been kanonied out as he finished, causing Sasuke to jump to the tree branches above to evade it. No, it wasn't a wind cannon. It was a wind blade. It brutally bit into the base of the tree before slicing all the way through, causing it to tilt and fall. "Shit!" Once more, Sasuke leapt from the branch and pulled out her sword to stab it into another nearby tree to slow her descent. Gently landing on another large tree branch, she began to hurriedly scan for her opponent. A series of footsteps clunked against the massive branch. Turning around, her face was met with a fist, causing her to stumble backwards. Another strike came from her left. She tried blocking it, but was instead struck from her left again. The grip on her sword slackened a bit. A knee to the stomach. It was becoming difficult to hold on. An uppercut to her chin staggered her. Her grip weakened some more. Finally, a snap kick to her celiac plexus sent her sprawling to the ground. Her hand let go of the sword, leaving it to clatter against the ground. My, you seem to be quite attached to that sword." He walked up to her prone body. "That was too easy, Sasuke-chan. The Uchiha clan must be rolling in their graves to know that their only survivor is nothing but a weakling." He breathed in before shrugging. "Oh well, I'm just going to slowly beat you, and when I'm done playing, I'll kill you." Slowly, her eyes opened. She wasn't staring at him. No, she was staring at something else. His words would not get beneath her skin. "Just like a bug, Sasuke-chan." He raised his foot to stomp her chest. For a moment, he allowed it to hang over her. The shinobi was relishing the moment. A terrible mistake to make. With a resurgence of strength, she pulled on something invisible as hard as she could. What the? The blade that was behind him was tied to a thin ninja wire that was controlled by Sasuke's hand. It perfectly slid across the ground and sliced into the Achilles tendon of the ankle. A look of shock was displayed on his face at the action. Although Sasuke wasted little time in flipping away and launching her sword at her now vulnerable opponent. The sword hit its mark in the chest, which blew him back into a tree with the blade sinking deeply into the trunk. There was a decent distance between the pinned grass Shinobi and Sasuke. Katan, Goryuka! Sasuke compressed a large amount of chakra and released it into the form of a mighty dragon head-shaped fireball. The temperature of the fire was so hot, Sasuke likened it to when Naruto had summoned the flaming sword all those months ago. In her mind, she had hoped that if he saw her in action now that he would be proud. The screams of the shinobi burning alive from her technique was terrifying. It was the sound of someone being cooked alive while being helplessly pinned. Sakura and Daisuke had finally caught up to their teammate after finishing off the clones. Sasuke, are you alright? Asked Sakura. She knelt down beside her teammate for an immediate once-over. Why, yes, she coughed. A little bruised, but nothing permanent. The screams had stopped by now. There was only the sound of the dying flames and charred wood cracking that could be heard. Man, you sure fucked him up good. Damn annoying bastard. All talk and no show, huh? Sasuke tiredly huffed a breath of annoyance. No, he was good. I was just better. I guess. Her eyes glanced away, not wanting to look at Daisuke. Let's just get going, alright? Before anything else happens. Alright. Daisuke threw up hands in surrender. No need to bite, Sasuke-chan. I was only complimenting you, geez. How bothersome. Team 7 froze at the voice. All three of them looked at where the supposedly dead shinobi was pinned. The man gripped the handle of the blade and slowly pulled it out of his chest. No more games. He inspected the sword, turning it this way and that before snapping the sword into pieces with his hands and tossing it away. Before they could respond, he clapped his hands together and released another wave of chakra, paralyzing the whole team. They struggled. They struggled as much as they could, but it was all for naught. I was mistaken. You truly do live up to the name of Uchiha. His face was horrifically burned off. If they looked closely, there was another pale face that lay beneath the cream-colored skin. With his right hand, he wiped off his forehead protector, revealing another symbol. Instead of a headband representing Kyuzugakure, it was one of Otogakure. I do want you, after all. Out of all of Team 7, Sasuke was the one who struggled the hardest against the invisible pressure that befell her. Humph. With how much you're struggling, you are definitely his little sister. Those eyes of yours hold even greater potential than Itachi's. Once again, his name froze her body. Who the hell are you? The smile on the person was hideous. My name is Orochimaru. His hands formed an irregular seal. And I hold the power to defeat your brother. His neck elongated and crossed the distance in the blink of an eye. His mouth opened, revealing a pair of fangs. He hovered above Sasuke's exposed before biting in deeply. Sasuke! What the fuck? Sasuke gurgled. Pain began to fill her body. A gasp escaped her mouth before she released a blood-curdling scream to the high heavens above. Her hands reached up to where he bit her and began writhing on the ground uncontrollably. Sasuke-chan, seek me out if you desire power beyond your wildest dreams. Why, you fucking sick bastard? What did you do to her? Orochimaru merely smirked, but before he could say anything, a red arrow smashed into his face. A gruesome sight met my eyes when I had caught up to Anko and the other shinobi at the crime scene. 4 bodies were strewn about, 3 of them being participants from Kyuzugakure, and 1 instructor. Limbs were torn about, some bodies had fist-sized holes punctured through them, and all of them had their heads ripped off. This wasn't pleasant. How long have they been dead? I asked out loud. Anko shrugged. From a rough estimate, maybe since the start of the exam? An eyebrow went up. Almost 2 hours and no one noticed? She shot me an irritated look. Yeah, and someone's ass is going to be on the chopping block. Usually we have people making rounds to check on everything, but apparently someone neglected to tell us about Gate 15. Expanding my senses, I reached out into the world with my Odi to perceive anything that they couldn't. Through my nose I smelt something faint. It was there, but only of the smallest amounts. A bounded field. It was a meager field set up by someone to keep any curious bystanders from peering on. After a while it simply began to deteriorate and disappear. A magi was here then not too long ago. "Ma'am, you should take a look at this one over here," called one of the instructors to Anko. It was a head, except this one didn't have a face at all. As if someone erased their identity altogether. The sight of it made my stomach do a flop. Anko muttered something that I didn't quite catch on. Ma'am? What did you say again?" "Him, he's here, that traitor Orochimaru." My heart almost skipped a beat. "Anko." I stepped forward. "Are you serious? This was Orochimaru's work?" "Yes. I'm 100% positive that he did this. It has his signature all over it without a doubt." That wasn't good. This was beyond bad. My head swiveled to the gate that was still open. If Orochimaru was here impersonating a contestant, and was in the forest, then that meant, the thought trailed off. I connected 2 and 2 together to draw the picture. Team 7 was in trouble. Oh no. Anko stood up and dusted her hands. "Call in the ANBU immediately. Lock down all the gates. No one comes in or out until everything is cleared." The 3 shinobi saluted her before disappearing to follow her orders. "All right. Naruto, we need to." I was already through the gate by the time she said my name. Speed. Speed was the main factor here that determined whether Team 7 lives or dies. I was blasting through the forest, trees and all in my quest to catch up to Team 7. It was fairly easy to tell where Orochimaru had headed from. He didn't bother covering up his tracks very well. Hopefully this allowed me to catch up quickly. Breathing in to steady myself, I traced Archer's bow into existence along with donning the red plain mystic code. My eyes were scanning all around, taking in everything. I could see where the footprints had disturbed the ground. There was only so much one could do to cover up their tracks, but a person would always leave a trail no matter what. So far I was on the right path. Everything around me was a blur as I bull rushed my way through the area. Ag! A horrendous scream pierced through the forest that was quickly followed up by a massive burst of chakra. It felt sinister and sickening all at once as well. I was too late. Shoving that thought aside, I immediately homed in on the location easily and tripled my speed. There wasn't any time to waste. Any monolithic tree that was in my way were felled by a reinforced arrow. I was going to cut a direct path to them. 1,000 meters out, there was a bounded field similar to the one Castor had set up on Fuyuki Bridge. One could liken it to inverting the world upon itself, akin to a reality marble. It kept everything out without anyone being none the wiser of having passed through the area. Canceling out the field the traditional way would take too long. I'll just have to take a page out of Archer's handbook. Brute force my way from the top where it was at its weakest. Just as I reached the outer edges of the dome, I bent my knees and launched up towards the canopy of the forest. Flipping once in the air, gravity brought me down as I pulled all the way back on my bow. The metal was audibly groaning at how taut it was. It was starting to vibrate. I wasted no time and released over a dozen arrows at once. The sound of glass shattering graced my ears. I was happy that it worked the first time. It made me wonder if Archer was taking his sweet time trying to rescue me, Tosaka, and Saber when we were trapped in Castor's field. I wouldn't put it past him. With a morbid satisfaction, I looked on as an arrow smacked Orochimaru right in the face as I landed in front of Team 7. I made note that Sasuke was still screaming her head off behind me. "And Naruto-kun? What the hell are you doing here?" I didn't bother responding to them. All of my focus was on the pale-skinned man in front of me. An arrow was knocked into position. He merely looked at me with a raised eyebrow. "And who might you be to crash in on my fun? Here goes nothing. How'd you like me to refer you to as? Orochimaru or?" A pause. His yellow snake-like eyes narrows at me. "Michael Roa Valdemjom?" He frowns in displeasure. "Bingo." "How?" he simply asks. The gig was up then and there. He wasn't even bothering to try to refute the statement. I scoffed at him, Are you so arrogant in thinking that the church wouldn't attempt to keep an eye on you? Or the others? This man before me was known to the shinobi world as Orochimaru, the treacherous rogue shinobi of Konohagakure. A man who was once under the tutelage of the legendary Sandaime Hokage and former member of the Densetsu no Sannin. What they didn't know was that this was a reincarnation of a man who once went by the name of Michael Roa Valdemjong. Michael was the founder of the Burial Agency, a group of special inquisitors gathered by the church with the sole purpose of eliminating demons and dead apostles. Some millennia ago after its founding, he deserted it with the intent on becoming a vampire to reach the root. In time, with experimentation through magecraft, he was able to achieve his goal to where he was not only unending through age, but also in death, as well through reincarnation. Although he is a dead apostle, Solomon had told me that he was considered an outsider and therefore not a part of the hierarchy of the 27. The gist of it was that he apparently stole the forces of all the other ancestors and tried conquering his way up to the top 10 without courting the right individuals first in the aristocracy. As punishment for being an upstart, they casted him away and do not officially recognize him as part of the clandestine organization. But just because he wasn't part of the 27 didn't mean he was weak at all. Orochimaru clicks his tongue in annoyance. An ugly scowl adorned his hideous-looking face. You seem to be quite knowledgeable, boy. Humor me. Who told you? Was it that crazed, bloodthirsty whore Nabarak? Or was it that moon-worshipping idiot treasure hunter Miram? His true voice came out. I refused to respond. Saying anything further would only be ammunition for him to use against me. TCH, what an annoying brat. I'll just take a wild guess and say it was both. He shrugged. Oh well. How careless of me to be had by the jailer of the queue. I released the arrow, which he blocked effortlessly. Shit. Touchy subject, I see? Don't think you can fool me with that holy shroud you have on your right arm. Which one is it, him? St. Peter's? Clement? Or? A nasty grin was flashed to me. Martin's? He was messing with me now. It was my turn to be surprised now. It was all he needed. Of course it would be Martin's shroud. Only it would have the potency to keep that power locked up. How's that arm of yours, boy? Not going to be keeling over and dying in the next 10 years, will you? After all, you're only human. How did he know so much? Was this the gap between me and a dead apostle ancestor when I didn't have Saber with me? I was letting him monologue for too long. Enough was enough. Tell me, boy, are you? Another arrow was shot to him. That was blocked as well. I followed it up this time with a stream of arrows that honed in on his position like a pack of wolves. He was countering my magecraft with his, but I made up for it by overwhelming him completely with an ungodlike amount of arrows. Archer was able to unleash hundreds of arrows per minute casually. In fact, I think if he was ever serious, he could have gone faster than even some machine guns. The amount I could do was only a far cry to his performance, but it was enough to be able to deter Michael away from me. Each arrow was packed with enough punch to level a house down to its foundations. Ha ha! What a thrill to fight a mage once more. Imagine my surprise when he uses a projected bow and arrow to fight me, ha ha ha. What an annoying prick. Too bad your magecraft pales in comparison to my own boy. What an arrogant, annoying prick. I inhaled calmly and kicked it up a notch. My face winces as a searing pain shot down my right arm. It was starting to act up again. Luckily my aim doesn't suffer as I keep on mark. The regular arrows weren't doing anything. I needed something that packed a hell of a lot more punch than prana-infused arrows. Trace on. With my right hand, the palm facing upwards, I traced a noble phantasm into existence from Unlimited Blade Works. It was Calidbald II, the fake spiral sword. I fired enough arrows earlier to keep the vampire busy for a few precious seconds. It was all I need either way. My feet quickly settled into a modified Kyudo stance and knocked the blade. As I pulled back on the string, the sword transformed into a more aerodynamic shape of an arrow. My body groans along with the bow. It took tremendous strength just to fire arrows, let alone a noble phantasm of this caliber. The hands holding it all together jammed as much magical energy as it could into the weapon just before it reached critical mass. Arcs of energy danced around me as I steadied my aim. My core is twisted in madness. The vampire made the mistake of being in midair. Easy target. Calidbalg. The back blast was so strong I heard a pair of voices scream as they struggled to stay on. The broken phantasm flew true on its path to the reincarnated vampire. Just as I expected he would do, he twisted his body in an unhuman-like way. It wouldn't matter. The sword that was once wielded by Fergus MacRoich had the ability to create a twisting distortion in space when fired. So even if he had evaded the projectile itself, the space that was distorted did its damage. In a fraction of a second the world lit up in flames as the ground shook. The arrow exploded, raising a significant part of the forest to the ground and engulfing it in flames. The epicenter of the explosion had turned the earth into molten rock. All the trees that were unaffected by the fireball were set ablaze if they were close enough, with others being flattened by the blast. My eyes that were reinforced scanned the area for any sign of the vampire. It was too easy of a fight, and if being in the Holy Grail War taught me anything, was that if it was too easy, then you had most likely failed in your objective. My boy. I would have never expected such firepower from a magi like you. And there's the snake popping out. He looked in pristine condition, as if he wasn't grazed by Calibald at all. As much as I would enjoy killing and experimenting on your corpse, I'll have to take my leave here. But don't worry, you'll see me sooner than you would expect. Ta-ta now! The vampire receded into the ground to disappear. His scent quickly disappeared in a matter of seconds. He was fast to scurry off and hide. Well, Miriam was right. This guy was a huge, annoying, conceited prick. I took a moment to survey the damage that was inflicted upon the forest during our fight. A fourth of the forest was nothing but a smoldering crater now. The area that was once packed tight with towering trees that reached hundreds of feet into the sky had disappeared along with the explosion. It probably took hundreds of years, maybe even thousands, for it to have grown before a quarter of it met its demise. I am going to be in so much trouble. The sudden realization dawned upon me before I casually shrugged it off. Whatever. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. Hey, are you guys okay? Daisuke twitched. Okay? He started off. Oh fucking K? I don't know if you got shit in your eyes, dumbass, but I think we're far from fucking okay. What the actual fuck was that? I rolled my eyes and ignored him to turn my attention towards Sasuke and Sakura. Well, Sasuke was still writhing and twitching ever so often, with Sakura trying to help heal her teammate. What happened to her, Sakura? There was an enormous wave of chakra that was released not too long ago. I crouched down to inspect Sasuke. He bit her, and now there's a seal on her neck, answered Sakura. I moved Sasuke's collar out of the way to get a better look at it. The girl in Sakura's arm groaned in pain as I touched the area around it. Tender still, I suppose. Daisuke shoved me away from her when I tried to get a better understanding of it. The fuck do you think you're doing touching my girlfriend like that? I clenched my fist. I can't stop myself. I punched Daisuke square in the face. I honestly couldn't hold myself back anymore. This guy kept pushing his luck every single time. So now he was on his ass holding a broken and bleeding nose. I'm just going to make this short. I towered over him. Shut up and stay out of the way, you stupid idiot. Of all the times for him to be a true and through moron, he chose now when Sasuke could be dying for all I know. I truly resent the person that was on the ground before me. My eyes glared into his. It was a cold glare that made him look away. He was subdued, for now. I turned back to Sakura. Do you think we'll be able to transport her to the tower or no? Yes. The pink-haired girl fumbled momentarily. Yes. It'll be best if we move quickly to get her medical help fast. We also have the, needed scrolls to pass the second trial too. We were just on our way to the tower before got ambushed. I didn't really care about the exam. I was more concerned about their well-being. Well, two of them at least. Alright. Tsubasa, carry your girlfriend. I'll take point. Sakura, make sure you keep an eye on Sasuke. I turned my head to make sure the other male complied. He did so without complaint. Good. He gingerly picked up Sasuke in a bridal style. At least he was being careful with her. Stay close. Let's move out. The trek to the tower was traveled in relative silence. Aside from the occasional whimpering and groan from Sasuke, not a word was spoken among the group as they followed Naruto. Tsubasa Daisuke had resolved to glare at the back of the man who saved him. There was enmity between the two males. Bad blood that will not be washed away so easily, as they both held each other in the lowest common denominator. Look at that stupid fucking getup he's wearing, angrily thought Daisuke. Who the fuck does he think he is, wearing some prissy-ass red clothing? Fucking touching up my girlfriend and shit. I'm gonna get him back for punching me in the face. Just you wait, you bastard. As if the man had sensed that he was being watched, Amiya Naruto turned around for the briefest of moments to glance at Daisuke. The man in front of him gave him a bored and disinterested look before quickly turning around. Daisuke tisked and looked away to take a peek at the girl he was dating. Uchiha Sasuke was beautiful in his eyes, but had some major baggage that tagged along with her. I suppose it's worth it if I can get to keep you as mine. She shifted in his arms and he repositioned them to get a better hold. Naruto-kun. His heart stopped. The black-haired teen's breath itched. What the fuck did she just say? The hands holding her gripped tighter. His teeth started to grind and gnash against each other. Sasuke's breathing started to get heavier. She was starting to sweat. She's getting worse. Naruto-kun, we need to pick up the pace. Naruto looked back at them and nodded. He doubled his speed as well as tracing his bow to clear a more direct path to the tower. Daisuke felt his body tremble in anger. Hate. Jealousy. That was what his heart and mind was feeling. Amiya Naruto. I hate you more than anyone else. One way or another. I'll make you suffer for what you've done. The status quo of Daisuke's life had changed with the introduction of Naruto, and from here on out he was going to push back.